As the end of the 18th century approaches, a tidal wave of change is poised to engulf the American colonies. There is a battle brewing to decide the fate of the colonies, as the country is split between Loyalists, patriots, and those who remain undecided. Soldiers, spies, Indians, farmers, statesmen, and townsfolk have many different ideas, perspectives, and motivations behind the American Revolution. The coming years will be ones of conflict, hardship, hope, and I pray victory. The forging of a great nation cannot take place without dedication, determination, and sacrifice. Oh, and my name? My name is Benjamin Franklin. Duty calls me now to London, England, where I must wage a war of words with the British government. But I leave my Philadelphia print shop in capable hands. My assistant, Moses, whom I have taught everything I know about journalism and the running of a newspaper. Oh yes, and his two young apprentices, Sarah Phillips and James Hiller, who must learn how to work together to separate truth from hearsay, as they pursue the most complete and accurate story for the Pennsylvania Gazette. As other voices try to sway the people to their point of view, it is only by excellence in reporting that the Gazette will be a successful and compelling voice for freedom and liberty.
So, Sarah and James, welcome to the print shop, home of the Pennsylvania Gazette.
The voice of liberty throughout the colonies. And to think that Ben Franklin said I could be an apprentice reporter. I'll make sure that our readers know about the grievous acts Britain is responsible for.
In that case, I think it would be appropriate if someone with composure is working with you. Remember, we are all British citizens.
All right, you two. One thing we can all agree on is our goal, to make sure that the truth is known. Remember, as Ben says, a lie stands on one leg, the truth on two.
I quite agree. The issues surrounding this conflict are very complex. We need to make sure we are seeing all sides.
All sides? You mean even those who think what Parliament is doing is fair? Forget it!
But I believe that people should have liberty to follow their own consciences. Let's face it, James, we need Ben's wisdom to help us learn how to be excellent and unbiased reporters.
A good journalist prints the facts and lets people make up their own minds. While Ben is helping the American cause in London, we have the responsibility of making the Gazette the best and most read newspaper in the colonies.
So how can we help, Moses?
Ben has passed on to me his knowledge of journalism. As apprentice reporters, you'll be learning how to ask the right questions and how to get the facts and opinions that make the most accurate and interesting story. As a matter of fact, an exciting assignment has just come in. You'll find it over on the bulletin board.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Lilbumblebear's Let's Play. I'm Kristen Lilbumblebear, and I am so excited to bring to you a show that I loved as a kid. You may have heard it, or maybe not. It was called The Liberty Kids. And as you can see, it took place in colonial times, where you got to witness a lot of important historical events happen through the eyes of kids who were reporters working for Benjamin Franklin. Now, I discovered this show by a very interesting occurrence of events. I've mentioned this previously in my Amazon Trail video and probably my Carmen Sandiego video, the Word Detective game. I found the Liberty Kids from a cereal box. There was a time when they not only put CD-ROM games in cereal boxes, but they also for a time put DVDs in cereal boxes. Nothing incredible, just maybe a disc that had a couple shows on it to give you a little taste of the different shows that were out there. For example, I think I collected most of the DVD discs. There was one that I knew that had the old Inspector Gadget cartoon on it and a Heathcliff episode, which I hadn't heard of Heathcliff. He's a cat. There was a cartoon with him. There was a cartoon episode on another disc from the Super Mario Bros. Cartoon. I believe it was from the 80s. You're probably familiar with it. And then, let's see what else. I think there was a strawberry shortcake episode on one of the DVDs. I've still kept them to this day. I'd have to go and look at them. But the Liberty Kids was one of them that was on the disc. I think the disc was just solely just a Liberty Kids episode or two. I don't think it shared any other, because usually the discs had two different cartoons from different series. But I think the Liberty Kids had its own disc by itself. But I absolutely loved it when I watched it. I mean, hey, I got cereal and a cool cartoon. I mean, being a kid was great. So I ended up buying the DVDs for the Liberty Kids. And if you've never heard of the show, there are episodes on YouTube you can go and check out. But I love history, especially this time period. So they made a game, and I got this game as a kid too, and I loved it. So I thought, share it with you guys, and I hope you enjoy it. It's made by the Learning Company. So you know the Learning Company. They've made Rita Rabbit, Carmen Sandiego, a lot of the games I've been posting lately, Learning Company games. So we're continuing on with their games. So please enjoy. Give it a thumbs up if you know the series or you enjoy this game. Maybe it's your first time seeing it. Leave a comment down below if you do know the Liberty Kids, if you watch the show, and subscribe for more nostalgic gaming. I do have a Twitter and Instagram you are welcome to follow, and a streaming channel. All the links are down below. And if you use Discord, let me know, because I have a server I would love to invite you to. All right, well, let's start witnessing historical events and being journalists. Enjoy.
This is the bulletin board. The name of your assignment is above the frame that will hold the newspaper front page. Select the frame, and I'll fill you in on the details of the Boston Tea Party. I just received word that a shipment of tea was destroyed in Boston. Folks are calling it the Boston Tea Party. Who knows what this may mean for the cause of liberty?
Oh boy, this is big. I bet the Sons of Liberty are behind this.
What a disgraceful waste of tea. No matter who's responsible, the British Parliament won't stand for it.
We need to find out all the details. Sarah, James, it's up to you. You need to determine the who, what, when, and where behind the tea that was destroyed. And I want thorough reporting here. Be sure to get at least 2 quotes about why people think it happened. And if at all possible, try to make one of them Samuel Adams. My instinct tells me he was involved somehow.
Samuel Adams? That would be a scoop.
The questions you need to ask are in your notebook. Remember, excellence in reporting means a better story, which will equal more newspapers sold. Let the voice of liberty ring free and clear. Good luck, and Godspeed.
Boston, Massachusetts Bay Colony. Finally. First, a long ride on horseback, then a 2-week voyage up the coast.
I don't think you have any cause to complain. If you want to be a reporter, you have to go where there's something to report.
Okay. Let's see if someone around here knows what happened to all that tea.
I just can't understand why the people of Boston can't be grateful. After all, Parliament did drop all the Townsend taxes, except for a small tax on imported tea.
It's the principle of the thing. We've got no say in the British government at all. So why should we pay any taxes to them?
I'm not too sure about this. I've never been in a tavern before in my life.
As a journalist, we've got to go where the stories are. I've heard rumors that Samuel Adams met with some of his fellow patriots in this place. Sir, we're trying to find out some information about the Boston Tea Party.
And find Samuel Adams, if he's still in Boston.
Well, I'm John Adams, and...
John Adams? The famous lawyer who defended the British soldiers after the Boston Massacre? I guess we won't be getting a patriot perspective from you.
Well, you never know. Remember, as journalists, it's important to learn all sides to the story. Sam is cautious about who he meets with these days. He's continuing to work for the cause in a house near here and not accepting visitors. Tell you what, if you'll do me a favor, I'll pass along your request to interview him. I lost the quill pen I use for writing letters to my wife Abigail. Can you find me another? You might check with Phyllis Wheatley, since she does a good amount of writing herself.
The North Church.
What a beautiful building! And I bet there's quite a view of Boston from the top of the tower. These stairs must lead up to the tower.
Let's go on up then. Ladies first.
A true gentleman would first make sure there's nothing nasty waiting at the top.
This is amazing! You could see all the way across the Charles River from here.
Perhaps others have enjoyed this very same view.
A message on a scroll. Let's not forget that we should make a sketch of any interesting places or people that we see. We can pick the best sketch for our newspaper story back at the print shop. This part of the harbor is known as Griffin's Wharf. We should be able to find out something around here.
Isn't that ship back there the Dartmouth? That was one of the ships sent by the British East India Company to carry tea to Boston. Barrels like this are often used for packing food on long sea voyages.
Henri, Moses asked us to find out about the Boston Tea Party. Do you know anything about it?
Mais oui, of course. What do you want to know?
Who do you think destroyed the tea?
I'm not sure. Sorry.
What actually happened to the tea?
Maybe somebody drank it.
When was the tea destroyed?
It happened a few weeks ago, I think.
Where was the tea destroyed?
In Boston. What a silly question.
Why do you think the tea was destroyed?
Somebody ate tea. Who can blame them? I do too. Yuck.
It is the Dartmouth. Governor Hutchinson insisted that its cargo of tea from the British East India Company was to be unloaded.
But some people weren't too happy with that idea because the colonies had no say about the import tax added to the price of tea. We need to find out what happened to that tea. So, all the tea was on this ship?
Actually, this was one of 3 ships with tea, and all of them had their tea destroyed.
Here, what you two want? State your business.
We're reporters, doing a story on the Boston Tea Party.
And loyal British subjects, I might add. At least one of us is. We thought we might find out a few details on the ship, if we may have your permission to look around.
You'd find me in a better mood if I could get me a new bayonet. I lost me old bayonet somewhere in the kerfuffle surrounding that blamed tea party. If me sergeant finds out, I'll come a cropper.
Fantastic! A loaf of bread. Smells good. The cabin door is locked.
It looks rather like we're leaving the city behind.
This stretch of land is called Boston Neck. It joins Boston to the mainland.
Pardon me, sir. My name's Sarah Phillips, and this is my, assistant, James Hiller.
Assistant? I'm the journalist. You've only just arrived from London.
London? I'd warrant that you may agree with me then, miss. I'd be happy to give you my opinion about these dreadful goings-on. Such a disgraceful waste of tea.
My sentiments exactly.
Would you happen to have any tea? I'm desperate for a cup. Some people are making it more difficult for us to buy it here in Boston these days. I say, tea is what I need, if you wouldn't mind.
It's getting pretty late. Do you think we'll find anything out here?
Let's look around a bit more. We need to find out more about this Boston Tea Party.
Well, this looks like the end of the path.
Thank goodness, my dress is getting muddy.
A map of Boston, in Massachusetts. Boston has around 15,000 inhabitants and is a very important colonial city. So, isn't Boston about the same size as London?
Good gracious, no. London is the largest city in the British Empire. A milliner's shop. Milliners sew hats and other accessories.
I wonder if her business will be affected if trouble comes to the colony.
Madam, would you mind answering a few questions? We're reporters from the Pennsylvania Gazette.
My, you're a long way from home then. I'd be happy to help. I'm just closing up my shop, you know, but I'm having trouble finding my best pair of scissors. I've been all over town today and could have left them anywhere. The church, that ship at the harbor.
Sure, we can keep our eyes open for them. Hey, that's the Wheatley house across the street.
I do believe you are right.
This old barn may be sheltering a bunch. We can only carry 4 items at a time. If we Let's not forget that we should make a sketch of any interesting places or people that we see. We can pick the... All right, the kitchen. I smell freshly baked bread.
You're just like Henri. There's more to life than food. Excuse me, ma'am. Do you have a minute to answer a few questions?
Normally, I wouldn't mind. But right now I'm a little distracted. I'm all out of paper, so I can't finish this poem I'm working on.
Poem? Wait a minute. Are you Phyllis Wheatley, the famous poet who wrote those inspiring calls for freedom and liberty, even though in slavery yourself?
I am Phyllis Wheatley, and my situation is very different from most slaves. The Wheatley family treat me as a member of the family, and I am thankful to God for giving me the chance to express myself in poetry. I'm very sorry, but I really must look for some more paper before I can talk to you further. Thank you, but I don't actually need that. I'm looking for some...
This part of town looks promising. Rumor has it that Samuel Adams is staying around here somewhere.
Go away. I'm busy.
This paper is handmade from recycled rags. A bayonet.
I'm very sorry, but I really must look for...
Here's your paper. By the way, would you happen to have a spare quill pen we could have?
Certainly. I just put one on the table. Please take it with my sincere gratitude.
Who do you think destroyed the tea?
You know, I never did find out who did it.
What actually happened to the tea?
Rumor has it that it was dumped somewhere.
When was the tea destroyed?
Now let me see. I think I remember. I had an errand to the milliner's shop earlier that day.
When was the tea destroyed?
It was December 16th, sometime in the early evening. I was studying Latin vocabulary when I heard mention of a commotion in town. Now let me see. I think I...
Where was the tea destroyed?
I heard it was somewhere in Boston, but not this end of town.
Why do you think the tea was destroyed?
Some people have lost all patience with Parliament, since they seem bent on taking away our God-given liberty by taxing us without our consent.
What actually happened to the tea?
Rumor has it that it was dumped somewhere.
A quill pen! Most quill pens are made from goose feathers.
Perfect for writing something important.
Sam is cautious about who he meets. Thank you. Abigail likes to be kept up to date with recent events. I'll be sure and let Sam know that you want to talk to him. So, how can I help you two?
Who do you think destroyed the tea?
I know exactly who, but I don't know if I should say. The group who did it has been known for its dedication to the rights of Americans.
What actually happened to the tea?
Well, I didn't see what happened, but I don't believe it will be usable anymore.
When was the tea destroyed?
It was sometime last month, if my memory serves me correctly.
Where was the tea destroyed?
I read a report describing the whole thing. The tea crates were dumped into Boston Harbor alongside Griffin's Wharf.
Why do you think the tea was destroyed?
I'm beginning to see the reasons behind these actions. The destruction of the tea is so bold, so daring, so firm, it must have important consequences. Those involved must want Parliament to stop its unfair taxation.
You'd find me in a better mood.
We found a bayonet, sir. Will this do?
Oh, so you did. I'm much obliged, miss. You saved me bacon. If you want to look around, I'll unlock the cabin for you. You can ask me some questions too, if you like. I know a thing or two, I do.
Who do you think destroyed the tea?
Well, if you ask me, it was probably a bunch of...
What actually happened to the tea?
Oh, I know all about that. One of me pals was on sentry duty that night. A mob dumped all the tea overboard.
When was the tea destroyed?
Now, it was the night of the 14th. The 17th, I think. It definitely wasn't the 15th. I was on duty that...
Where was the tea destroyed?
All the crates of tea were broken open and dumped into Boston Harbor.
Why do you think the tea was destroyed?
Why? I know exactly why. These colonists have lost all respect for the mother country. It's we soldiers who have to defend them, and they're not willing to pay their taxes. It's sheer selfishness, if you ask me.
The captain's cabin. He should have just sailed back to England with the tea.
From what I understand, the captain didn't have a choice. The governor wouldn't allow him to leave, but certain agitated citizens wouldn't let him unload the tea either. A canister of tea. Tea is a very popular drink in the colonies.
True patriots won't drink tea anymore, though, to protest the tea tax.
I'd be happy to help. Thank you so much. Even though orders have been down lately, I still keep fairly busy. Now, how can I be of service to you?
Who do you think destroyed the tea?
I don't feel like I can tell you. Frankly, I'm scared to. The people who did it have very strong feelings about the recent taxes and don't understand why anyone wouldn't share their views.
What actually happened to the tea?
I don't know very much about it. Well, I know that there were 3 ships carrying the tea, and all of it was dumped overboard.
When was the tea destroyed?
I remember when it was. It was just after I put the children to bed for the night.
Where was the tea destroyed?
I don't know where. Sorry.
Why do you think the tea was destroyed?
To protest the tea tax. The taxes aren't really that high, you know. I suppose they think it's unfair to be taxed without having a voice in Parliament. I just hope no more violence comes to Boston. The tea was destroyed to make a stand for liberty from unjust laws, like taxes without a voice in government. But since my husband died, I've had myself and the babies to care for. Liberty is all well and good, but if all this trouble affects my business and I lose the store, what will I do?
Ah, some civilized lodgings at last.
I must admit that fire does feel good. The winter in Massachusetts Bay Colony can freeze the bones. I can't believe it! Samuel Adams! My name's James Hiller. I'm a reporter for the Pennsylvania Gazette.
Apprentice reporter. Excuse me, sir, but my name's Sarah Phillips, and we would like to ask you some questions if you don't mind.
Well, well. Reporters from the Gazette, eh? I trust that you are for the cause of liberty. Before I speak with you, I need you to find something for me. There's a scroll with the names of all the Sons of Liberty, including some very important and influential people in Boston. It was misplaced somewhere around the Old North Church. Will you get it for me?
A message on a scroll.
Before I speak with you, I need you to... Ah, the missing scroll. Some important people here in Boston will be very relieved to know this hasn't fallen into the wrong hands. We need for the truth of British oppression to be heard throughout the colonies. What would you like to know?
Who do you think destroyed the tea?
Someone who doesn't want to be pushed around by the British government anymore, that's for certain. It was the Sons of Liberty, a group of men strongly opposed to British rule. They, were disguised as Mohawk Indians.
What actually happened to the tea?
It didn't end up in any Loyalists' cup, that's for sure. The crates of tea were broken open, and all the tea was thrown overboard and given a good soaking in the harbor.
When was the tea destroyed?
It was destroyed at a very significant time. It was the evening of December 16th, 1773, just a few hours before the midnight deadline requiring the tea to be unloaded or confiscated in order to pay the taxes due.
Where was the tea destroyed?
Let's just say that Boston Harbor witnessed quite a tea party, though most people prefer hot water with their tea.
Why do you think the tea was destroyed?
Why? You picked the right person to ask why. To make a point. Parliament has no right trying to take away our rights to govern ourselves. We will not submit to British tyranny.
Would you happen to have any tea? I'm desperate.
Well, we found some tea for you. Though I feel like a traitor giving it to you, true patriots have nothing to do with tea from Britain.
Go ahead with your questions. It's about time someone asked for my opinion.
Who do you think destroyed the tea?
Some ruffians from around here, but they were disguised. It was Samuel Adams and the Sons of Liberty. I call them the Sons of Violence. They'll stop at nothing. People have been tarred and feathered for opposing them.
What actually happened to the tea?
It's too hard for me even to talk about. All that tea, gone!
When was the tea destroyed?
A day that I'll never forget. It was around the middle of December, right after I got back from my supper in the evening.
Where was the tea destroyed?
I'm actually not sure exactly where the tea was destroyed.
Why do you think the tea was destroyed?
Those villains destroyed the tea because they are naughty, rebellious children, wanting their own way instead of trusting Parliament to look after them. Don't they know that colonies are supposed to serve the mother country instead of caring only about their own selfish concerns? Those rebels think that acts like these will force Parliament to agree to their demands. They don't understand that there are costs that come along with the benefits of being part of the British Empire.
Use the arrow cursor to travel around. Click on people.
Welcome back. Did you learn anything about the Boston Tea Party?
We sure did. And you were right. There were lots of different opinions out there about what happened.
And lots of interesting people to talk to. I was surprised how strong some feelings are against the British Parliament and the King, even though we are all British subjects.
Well, as reporters, your next task is to decide which quotes you want to put in your story. We want our readers to get the clearest and most accurate information about the Tea Party. Head over to the editing desk on the back wall, and I'll tell you what to do next. This is the editing desk. Select a part of your story and then choose a quote for that section. You'll notice that some people gave you facts while others didn't really know what went on. Try to pick the best quotes from your notebook. You can always get feedback from me to help you learn which quotes contain better information. When you're all done, come back and I'll tell you what to do next. Feedback appears below each of your quotes. Good work! If you think you have finished editing your story, go to the layout area in front of the printing press to design the front page of your newspaper. This is the layout area, where you can make your newspaper front page look just the way you want before you print it out. Choose a sketch for your front page and type in a headline. Publish the paper once you are finished. We need to get the truth out about the Boston Tea Party. It's important that all the colonies know what's happening. We should be as one, united in a common cause. Your story is key in making that happen. Let's get it published. You can check out the chalkboard to see how many newspapers your story has sold. We should send a copy to Ben in London on the next ship. It'll take a couple of months to reach him, but he'll want to see how you two are doing and hear about the news.
Well, not bad. Not bad at all, James and Sarah. It looks like Moses is teaching you well. Boston Tea Party, eh? I'm not sure that was the wisest thing for the Sons of Liberty to do, but what's done is done. From what I've heard, the British are sending more soldiers to Boston. They believe the colonies are in open rebellion. Representatives from the colonies have met together to decide what to do. With the colonists stockpiling weapons and gunpowder, I fear that trouble of a very significant nature is brewing.
Well, James and Sarah, it's been over a year since the Boston Tea Party. It's a good thing Ben is on his way back from London. The mood in the colonies is getting ugly. I want you to be ready to go at a moment's notice.
Certainly, Moses. You can count on us.
As reporters, you'll have to ask the right questions and get the facts and opinions that make the most accurate and interesting story. As a matter of fact, an exciting assignment has just come in. You'll find it over on the bulletin board. The chalkboard is where I keep track of how many newspapers we've sold. The better the story, the better the sales. So do your best to get as many interesting and accurate quotes as possible. If there is a new assignment on the bulletin board, you can investigate that story. If there is no new assignment, finish working on your current story. You can also select a finished front page to see it or print it out. I'm hearing reports of a clash between colonial militia and British redcoats at the towns of Lexington and Concord near Boston. If it's true, this could mean war. I need you to get the facts.
I was praying it wouldn't come to this. Surely these differences are not worth bloodshed.
I bet it was the redcoats who started it.
And I'm just as sure you're wrong. The people of Massachusetts are bent on governing themselves, no matter what the cost.
Well, James and Sarah, your job as apprentice reporters is to set aside your differences and find out what truly happened. We need all the details. You need to determine the who, what, when, and where behind these battles. And don't forget what Ben taught us. I want thorough reporting here. Be sure to get at least 2 quotes about why people think it happened. And if at all possible, try to make one of them Paul Revere. I've heard that he was instrumental in alerting the colonists.
We will do our very best, Moses. Won't we, James?
Don't worry about me.
The questions you need to ask are in your notebook. Remember, we need a complete and accurate account of the battles. Oh, and at least try to get along. Good luck, and Godspeed.
The Buckman Tavern. This 65-year-old hostelry is a popular stopover for folks journeying from Boston.
I'm ready to rest myself. It's about 12 miles out to here from the city.
This tavern can be a busy place, but it's pretty quiet right now. Drying beef is one way of keeping it from going bad.
It may not always be very palatable, though.
A sword. Usually, only officers carry swords. Be careful. That thing's sharp.
Excuse me, ma'am. We're reporters from the Pennsylvania Gazette. Would you mind answering a few questions?
About the fighting here in Lexington, I suppose. I can give you a few minutes. My youngest is taking a nap, and the other children are clearing away breakfast.
Do you have a husband involved in the fighting?
Yes. My Robert has been listening to those Sons of Liberty. My father's very angry with him. He doesn't see the need for violence, even if some disagree with the way the king has been handling these troubles. I pray that my husband will make wise decisions. But there now, I'm going on and on. What did you want to ask me?
Who was involved in the battles at Lexington and Concord?
My husband and the rest of the Lexington Company were involved in the first fight with the British on Lexington Green. I'm not sure about the rest of the conflict.
What actually happened at Lexington and Concord?
There were clouds of smoke from the muskets and all kinds of shouting and fighting. My children were so scared. Many men were killed on both sides.
When did the battles take place?
Oh, yes. I had just finished cleaning up breakfast when the church bell tolled the alarm. It was sometime early on April 19th. My husband left when he heard the company's drummer sounding the call to arms.
Where exactly did the fighting take place?
It started here in Lexington, Massachusetts, right out on the green. The British troops marched on to the town of Concord, where the main fighting started. After clashes in both Lexington and Concord, the Minutemen shot at the British from behind walls and trees, all the way back along the roads to Boston.
Why do you think the fighting took place?
My husband says that we need to stand with the people of Boston.
The road to Concord. It's about 6 miles from Lexington to Concord. A bedroll. A rolled-up blanket or two for travelers or soldiers to keep warm at night. I think most of the people in the colonies are up in arms about Parliament's oppression.
You can't be sure. The country is still divided between Loyalists, Patriots, and those who are undecided.
A jackknife. Useful for all sorts of things. In fact, some regiments require that their soldiers carry them. Concord Green. So peaceful now. It's hard to imagine it filled with soldiers. We need to hurry so we can get back in time to meet Moses' deadline for the newspaper.
That's true, but we also need to make sure we have all the facts to present an accurate story.
I heard that there was quite a fight at the North Bridge. 400 militia advanced against 120 redcoats.
The colonists seem to have already made up their minds that they will not be reconciled with Britain. I somehow feel that many more people will die before this conflict is ended.
Let's hope a resolution can be found quickly.
Good morning there. My name's Sexton Newman from North Church, Boston. How may I be of service to you?
Good morning, sir. We're reporters from the Pennsylvania Gazette. My name's Sarah Phillips, and this is James Hiller. Are you the Sexton Newman who lit the lanterns in the church tower to show which way the British soldiers were traveling?
That was me. 1 if by land, 2 if by sea. And it was 2 lanterns I hung, of course.
This cemetery seems a lonely place to be on a spring morning, Mr. Newman.
I was praying for the families of those who died in the recent fighting. In fact, I would love to have my Bible here with me. I left it in the Clark House in Lexington.
We can get it for you. But would you then mind answering a few questions?
Not at all. And thank you so much.
This looks like the road out to the Adams farm in Braintree.
Being a reporter is certainly wearying to the feet.
Okay, so where are we now?
I thought you knew where we were going. A book of Phyllis Wheatley's poems, the first book of poetry ever published by a slave in America.
In 1773, if I'm not mistaken, and to great acclaim in both America and England.
The Adams Farm. John Adams is a successful lawyer and also one of the men involved in the Continental Congress.
That's right. Each colony has sent representatives to the meetings in Philadelphia. John Adams is one of the delegates from the colony of Massachusetts.
This parlor is where the Adams family entertains guests, though I've heard that John Adams is often away on business.
This is the road to Lexington.
The town looks fairly small.
About 750 people. Small indeed, compared to Boston.
This must be Lexington Green.
I wonder if any fighting took place here. We need to do some interviews. General Thomas Gage, the British governor of Massachusetts, has been sending out his soldiers to stir up trouble.
I think you better check your facts, James. Gage may be the commander of all British forces in America, but he's a wonderful leader and wants to avoid bloodshed at all costs.
Sir, you look like a member of the local militia. Were you involved in the recent fighting?
I sure was, young man. I'm one of the fortunate few who have a uniform. Most of the company just wear normal workday clothes.
Are you one of the so-called Minutemen?
That's right. Ready to leave home at a minute's notice. We've been training together for about 6 months now. I think we're more than a match for the British.
I'm proud of you, men. It must have been quite a fight. We're reporters from the Pennsylvania Gazette. Can we ask you a few questions?
You know, I'd love to help, but Captain Parker told us that we all need to parade this afternoon in full kit. We're all supposed to have a musket, canteen, and jackknife. I have to stay here and guard the green, but I'm missing a knife and I don't have time to look for one. I think I lost mine in a field during the battle.
If we can find you one, will you help us out?
It's a deal. When you get back, I'll let you go over the green to the buildings beyond.
We found a jackknife.
Thank you. I appreciate your help. You're free to go across the green if you'd like. Now, how can I help you with your story?
Who was involved in the battles at Lexington and Concord?
There were lots of men involved in the fighting. Captain Parker led our company here in Lexington. There were many other militia, and almost 2,000 British troops involved by the end of the day.
What actually happened at Lexington and Concord?
The British marched on Concord. They split up to seize the hidden stores of ammunition. As our militia advanced to stop them, the British opened fire. It soon became a full-fledged battle. After early morning fighting in Lexington and Concord, the British marched back to Boston. We shot at them from behind walls and trees along the way. If more British soldiers hadn't come to help them, we might have killed them all.
When did the battles take place?
It was early morning, April 19th, when the fighting broke out. It continued all day.
Where exactly did the fighting take place?
In the Massachusetts towns of Lexington, Concord, Menotomy, and the roads in between.
Why do you think the fighting took place?
The British Parliament has been taking away our liberties one by one. They were taking us lightly, and they underestimated our ability to defend ourselves when they sent their troops after our patriot leaders. We are ready and willing to fight for our freedom.
This old barn looks like a good place to find something interesting.
If you find rats and fleas interesting.
Finally! You're Paul Revere, aren't you? One of the famous Sons of Liberty!
I don't deny it, young man.
Aren't you one of the gentlemen who rode through the night to warn the colonists that the British regulars were coming to capture the stores of ammunition?
That's correct. I also rode to warn Samuel Adams and John Hancock that they were in danger of being arrested.
Would you mind answering some questions about the clash between the Americans and the British?
I'd be happy to, once I take care of a piece of business. Sexton Robert Newman has an important message for me from John Hancock that I'm supposed to carry back to Boston. I need to give it to the other Sons of Liberty working there. Newman seems to have been delayed. Can you find him and bring the message to me?
What a beautiful room! Excuse me, ma'am. We're sorry to disturb you, but...
Are you Mrs. Adams? John Adams' wife?
That is correct, but you can call me Abigail. And who might you two eager youngsters be?
My name's Sarah Phillips, ma'am. I've recently come from England to stay in Philadelphia while awaiting word from my father. He's out on the Ohio frontier.
And I'm James Hiller, famous reporter for the Pennsylvania Gazette.
Famous reporter?
Soon to be famous anyway, once I get this story written.
Once we get this story written.
Well, I suppose you have some questions to ask me then. But first I have a favor to ask of you. You don't happen to have a book of Phyllis Wheatley's poems, do you? I'm eager to find a copy.
We managed to find a copy of the book.
Oh, wonderful. I cannot wait to read this. But first, I promised you I would answer some questions. How can I help you?
Who was involved in the battles at Lexington and Concord?
It was ordinary farmers and townsfolk fighting for their freedom against the best of the British Army. It was the Minutemen from Lexington, Concord, and the surrounding towns, fighting against British soldiers sent from Boston by Governor Thomas Gage.
What actually happened at Lexington and Concord?
I didn't actually hear all the details. I would not want to mislead you in any way.
When did the battles take place?
Let's see now. I'll try to remember. It was mid-April, I believe, but I'm not sure of the exact date. It did begin quite early in the morning.
Where exactly did the fighting take place?
Around the towns and countryside on the west side of Boston.
Why do you think the fighting took place?
Governor Gage had been ordered to seize the stores of ammunition that the Patriots had gathered. Parliament doesn't understand that America is a very different place than Britain. We have a sense of freedom here that we are not willing to give up. Some are even willing to die for it. Governor Gage had been ordered to seize the stores of ammunition that the Patriots had gathered.
A journal. Many people keep journals of important events or experiences in their lives. A letter, and secured with a red wax seal. If we need some...
Reverend Clark's...
I'd be happy to. Once I take care of... I need you to bring me a message from Sexton Newman.
This lovely room reminds me of my home in England. A Bible. Many groups have been inspired by the words in its pages. Don't forget, we need to get the opinions of everyone involved. There are many different perspectives on this conflict.
Yes, including yours and mine.
So, Henri, it looks like we will find you wherever there's a chance for some food.
What's wrong with that?
Can you forget about your stomach long enough to help us out with some questions?
I cannot think right now. I am still hungry. A little dried beef would be magnifique with this bread. I cannot think right now. I am still hungry. A little dried beef would be magnifique with this bread.
You're back!
Drying beef.
I cannot think right. My stomach thanks you. What questions do you want to ask me?
Who was involved in the battles at Lexington and Concord?
It was the Patriots and the Lobsterbacks.
What actually happened at Lexington and Concord?
I heard that the Redcoats just attacked innocent people.
When did the battles take place?
It happened a few weeks ago, I think.
Where exactly did the fighting take place?
In Lexington and Concord. I think that may be two different towns.
Why do you think the fighting took place?
The British are trying to take away the rights of the colonists. The colonists want to stand up for their freedom.
If we need...
I was praying for the families of those who died. Thank you so much. Now, if you happen to see Mr. Paul Revere on your travels, could you please give him the message I set over by the headstone?
Who was involved in the battles at Lexington and Concord?
I'm not sure I know exactly who was involved in the fighting.
What actually happened at Lexington and Concord?
Patriot spies discovered that the British wanted to seize Samuel Adams and John Hancock, as well as munitions. Colonial militia confronted the British soldiers, and someone opened fire. It soon became a significant battle.
When did the battles take place?
The fighting broke out on a morning in mid-April and lasted all day.
Where exactly did the fighting take place?
It may not be exactly where you think.
Where exactly did the fighting take place?
There was some fighting in Lexington and more at Concord, but much took place in the fields and other towns on the way back to Boston. It may not be exactly where...
Why do you think the fighting took place?
Many church leaders have argued that men have a God-given right to freedom. The rebel militia put their lives on the line to protect what they believe is right.
A message on a...
I'd be happy to, once I take care of a piece of business. I'm very grateful. I have a little time to talk before I have to leave. What questions did you have?
Who was involved in the battles at Lexington and Concord?
From what I hear, a lot of people were involved. Some British regulars marched out of Boston. These soldiers clashed with armed colonists from the local villages and farms.
What actually happened at Lexington and Concord?
The British had been ordered to seize the colonists' stashes of weapons and gunpowder. The colonists tried to stop them, and fighting broke out. Over 100 people were killed.
When did the battles take place?
It was an April morning, just this year. It started the morning of April 19th, right after my midnight ride through the countryside, warning the towns that the regulars were coming.
Where exactly did the fighting take place?
It wasn't that far from the city of Boston. The first clash was on Lexington Green, just outside of the town. The next battle took place in the town of Concord, and then fighting continued all day back to the outskirts of the city.
Why do you think the fighting took place?
It was bound to happen eventually. The British government's policies toward America have become increasingly firm. They see us as rebellious children who need disciplining. Parliament and King George want to force us into submission. Their decision to send more British troops to Boston was very foolish.
Welcome back! I'm anxious to hear the news from Lexington and Concord.
You should
try to pick the best quotes from your notebook pages. Select a part of your story and then choose a quote to go there. Remember, you can get feedback about the quotes you choose before you print your article. Don't forget, you need quotes that answer who, what, when, and where, and 2 quotes that answer why the event is worth repeating. Feedback appears below each of your quotes. Good work! This is the layout area, where you can make your newspaper front page look just the way you want before you print it out. Choose a sketch for your front page and type in a headline. Publish the paper once you are finished. The battles at Lexington and Concord marked the beginning of the Revolutionary War. We want our readers to get all the details. We need to get it published. You can look at the chalkboard to see how many newspapers your story has sold. You can also take a copy to Ben, now that he's arrived in Philadelphia. He loves to keep up on the news.
So, shots have been fired. 'Tis not good news, though well reported by young James and Sarah. I had hoped to avoid a war at all costs. But now that we have one, the colonies must stand united. And other recent news has emphasized that fact. First, the Battle of Bunker Hill showed the British that the Americans are determined to fight. But the discouraging failures in Canada and now on Long Island, New York, show that we need Congress to support a strong continental army. Yet I fear that even with George Washington at its head, we will need help from elsewhere before this conflict is over. I could do no more good in Britain for the time being, but perhaps I can be of some help here in America in setting the direction of our future as a united people.
James, Sarah, I feel that something big is going to happen, with Ben Franklin, John Adams, and the other colonial statesmen meeting together here in Philadelphia. Be ready to go out on assignment. I'll let you know where to go next.
We'll be ready.
As reporters, you'll have to ask the right questions and get the facts and opinions that make the most accurate and interesting story. As a matter of fact, an exciting assignment has just come in. You'll find it over on the bulletin board. If there is a new assignment on the bulletin board, you can investigate that story. If there is no new assignment, finish working on your current story. This is just in. There are rumors that a very significant document has been drafted. It declares the colonies independent of Britain.
That's treason. The writers of that document will surely pay a dear price.
No, Sarah. The writers of that document are courageous believers in the cause of freedom. Their words will spur the colonists to action.
This may be a defining moment in history. As reporters, your job is to find out the facts about the Declaration. I know I can count on you to talk to a variety of different people. We need all the details. You need to determine the who, what, when, and where behind the writing of the Declaration of Independence. And don't forget that we need thorough reporting. Be sure to get at least 2 viewpoints regarding why people think independence is being declared. And if at all possible, try to make one of them Thomas Jefferson. He should have some strong ideas about independence.
I want to know why he thinks we can't reach a solution that will allow us to remain British subjects.
Americans have acted independently for some time now. This just makes it official.
I can tell you're going to find some differences of opinion out there. The questions you need to ask are in your notebook. Don't forget to listen for the quotes that contain the most accurate and complete information. Good luck, and Godspeed.
Philadelphia is the most populous community in these British colonies.
You're correct, James. I hope you keep in mind that these are British colonies, not independent states.
Well, if your king wanted us to remain his subjects, he shouldn't have imposed taxes on us without our consent.
Mr. Dickinson, it's a privilege to meet you.
I just don't understand. Why are you against independence?
James, don't be rude. James would like you to help him understand your points of view. Isn't that right, James?
We want to ask you some questions.
Please?
I do want the public to understand why I would have preferred to continue negotiating with Britain rather than declaring independence. In fact, I must write just such a letter to Congress, but I'm afraid I don't have any paper. Would you be able to get some for me?
Of course. This is Chestnut Street, so...
We must be standing in front of Carpenter's Hall.
Where the First Continental Congress met. So this room is where the First Continental Congress met.
In September of 1774.
James, I find your habit of interrupting me
remarkably informative. John Dunlap's print shop is on this road. I've heard rumors that he'll be printing the broadside copies of the Declaration. These large sheets will be seen throughout the colonies right away.
If Congress votes to accept the document, I'm shocked that it's come to this.
Aren't you Mary Catherine Goddard? Hasn't your newspaper openly expressed the colonists' desire for freedom?
I've read your paper as well, but I believe it's published in Baltimore. What brings you to Philadelphia?
I'm visiting a printer here. I've brought him a printer's mallet.
Can we ask you a few questions?
Unfortunately, I've misplaced the printer's mallet I brought from Baltimore. I'll have to locate it before I can help you.
John Dunlap publishes the Pennsylvania Packet in here.
Our competition! I hope our coverage of this story will switch a few readers from the Packet to the Gazette.
This paper is handmade from recycled rags. A pair of seamstress scissors. Many women learn embroidery and carry scissors with them.
Where do you think this alley leads?
Let's find out. Journalists have to have a sense of adventure, you know.
A seal, used to make an impression in wax showing the ownership of a document.
I do want the public to understand. Thank you for bringing me this paper. Here now. I'll place the letter to Congress on this stone wall. Please take it to John Adams so he may present it to Congress. Before you go, though, I'd like to answer your questions.
Who is involved in the drafting of the Declaration of Independence?
None of those involved were very willing to work for a compromise with Great Britain, that's for certain. They're members of Congress who, I fear, have not thought through the consequences of declaring independence. I had hoped our differences with Britain could have been resolved without resorting to this declaration.
What are some of the main ideas contained in the Declaration of Independence?
The document contains dangerous words. It breaks all ties between the colonies and Britain, but doesn't consider how the colonies will defend the frontier against the Indians and other European powers. The preamble describes the people's rights. Though I've urged resistance to British taxation, the words in this document are too extreme.
When was it decided to declare independence?
I fear it happened before full consideration of the consequences. Independence is a dangerous idea. I predict that the day the document is approved will be the one that goes down in history. I don't plan to be present. I do remember it was a hot day in early June.
Where was the Declaration of Independence written?
I can't say. I'm concerned about the safety of those who are convinced this is the only way to respond to Britain. The First Continental Congress met in Carpenter's Hall, but I prefer not to reveal where the Second Continental Congress is meeting.
Why do you think the Congress decided to declare independence?
I object to taxation, but I don't believe this declaration is the best way to resolve our differences with Britain. Once they believed public opinion supported the cause of independence, Congress felt the need for an official declaration of independence from Britain's rules and taxes to send a clear message to all.
A printer's mallet used for pressing a sheet of paper onto the inked type.
Unfortunately, Thank you for locating this printer's mallet. Please ask me whatever you wish. As a fellow journalist...
Who is involved in the drafting of the Declaration of Independence?
You know, I'm not altogether certain, but it's about time we became a free and independent nation. About all I can tell you is that I support the decision, regardless of who made it.
What are some of the main ideas contained in the Declaration of Independence?
I haven't seen the contents yet. Maybe one day soon I will. I hope to print the document one day. I've heard a few rumors, but as journalists, be careful about confusing rumors with facts. I know for certain that it includes a list of the colonies' accusations against the British government. It also states that the colonies are free and independent of Britain and can do the things other independent nations can do.
When was it decided to declare independence?
I can't give you an exact date, but it was definitely the right time to do it. I don't know exactly when the decision was made, but I do hope to print the Declaration one day in my print shop in Baltimore.
Where was the Declaration of Independence written?
Where? I know it was written and edited somewhere here in Philadelphia. Congress is making changes to Jefferson's rough draft at the State House here in Philadelphia.
Why do you think the Congress decided to declare independence?
I hesitate to guess the motivations of Congress, but there are many who support them. I'll tell you why I think they wrote it. I read Thomas Paine's pamphlet, Common Sense, and you know, I agree with it. A government should serve its people, not the other way around.
We've wandered to the outskirts of Philadelphia. Maybe we ought to turn around.
Where's that sense of adventure? Let's go on up the road a bit.
Look, we've walked quite a long way. Are you ready to turn back yet?
Let's look around here a bit first.
The Union Jack, flag of Great Britain.
Look, there's the State House.
Do you think the Second Continental Congress is meeting right now?
Well, there's certainly one way to find out. Jefferson's taken a flat somewhere along this street.
A bottle of ink. To write with a quill pen, you must dip it in ink from a bottle like this one.
The door to the flat is locked.
It smells like a fine dinner is being prepared somewhere around here.
It might smell...
I imagine that this tavern has witnessed some interesting debates.
It smells like this tavern has witnessed some interesting food as well.
John Adams? You've served in both the First and Second Continental Congresses.
It would be a privilege if you'd allow us to speak with you.
I realize how important it is to get the latest news to the public. But first, I must go retrieve a letter from one who does not support our cause.
Perhaps we could help?
John Dickinson supports resistance to British taxation, but he still hopes for reconciliation. He's written me a most important letter. Can you retrieve it from him for me? John Dickinson supports resistance to British taxation, but he still hopes for reconciliation. He's written me a most important letter. Can you retrieve it from him for me?
I'd like to scramble up that tower and ring the Liberty Bell in the name of freedom.
I think your actions would be a bit premature, James. And immature as well. Hello, aren't you John Hancock?
The President of the Second Continental Congress.
Yes, that's me.
There's much excitement here in Philadelphia. Can we trouble you for an interview?
I must make this important document official. I must find a seal, unless you can help me. Do you think you might be able to locate a seal for me? Now it's official. Thank you so much. I'd be happy to let you interview me now.
Who is involved in the drafting of the Declaration of Independence?
Well, the names of those involved are being kept secret to protect them. You realize they're risking their lives, their fortunes, and their honor. It won't do any harm to tell you that Thomas Jefferson wrote the first draft, since Congress as a whole is now debating it.
What are some of the main ideas contained in the Declaration of Independence?
Congress wishes for us to keep the details of the document secret until it's entirely finished. I can tell you that a portion of the document dissolves all ties between the colonies and Britain. I intend to sign it so that the king can read my name without spectacles.
When was it decided to declare independence?
It's probably best I not divulge what I know. Congress has imposed secrecy on all of us, so I hesitate to tell you anything. I will tell you this. The resolution to declare independence was made and voted on June 7th, 1776. A committee was appointed on June 11th and began to draft the document immediately.
Where was the Declaration of Independence written?
The document was written in more than one location. Jefferson wrote the first draft in his apartment. The final changes to the Declaration were made at the State House. It all happened right here in Philadelphia.
Why do you think the Congress decided to declare independence?
All of the events of the last few years have led to this decision. It's completely justified. We have a lengthy list of complaints against the king that need to be stated once and for all.
They're not meeting right now.
But I feel as if I can hear the echo of the words that speak of independence.
I think that echo might be your stomach rumbling, James. We need to be sure and interview people on both sides of this issue.
You mean interview Tories? I don't know what they'd have to tell us.
James?
Look at the books in this library.
Plain Truth by James Chalmers. A Loyalist response to Thomas Paine's Common Sense.
Doesn't sound like the plain truth or common sense to me.
Hi, I'm Sarah from the Pennsylvania Gazette.
And I'm James. We're collecting some opinions on the events that are happening here in Philadelphia.
What's happening is drawing a sharp dividing line between supporters and opponents of independence.
And I assume you're all for independence.
Absolutely not. We are British subjects and should behave accordingly.
I'm inclined to agree with you, but my friend here...
Would you answer some questions?
I'd be happy to have the newspaper publish my views, but just to be certain there's no question which side I'm on, first, bring me a Union Jack that I can hang outside my home. You know, a British flag. I really appreciate your help. I want to show my loyalty to the Crown. I'd be happy to let your readers know exactly how I feel about this ridiculous quest for independence.
Who is involved in the drafting of the Declaration of Independence?
They're disloyal scoundrels, if you ask me. They're just rabble-rousing rebels. Jefferson and the others had best be careful.
What are some of the main ideas contained in the Declaration of Independence?
I don't know exactly what's in the document, but the idea of declaring independence from the monarchy is ludicrous. I believe there are words complaining of taxation.
When was it decided to declare independence?
I heard a report about this travesty beginning on June 7th, and by the 11th, I'd heard of a committee actually drafting a document declaring independence.
Where was the Declaration of Independence written?
I want to remain far away from wherever those rebels are meeting.
Why do you think the Congress decided to declare independence?
What difference does it make? It's an act of treason against Britain. I hope you're aware that some of the colonists don't support the decision to declare independence. Congress, tired of Britain's rule, believes a proclamation of independence might help convince the French to send troops to help the colonies in their fight against our monarch.
Candle making is a very important skill. Everyone is dependent on candles for supplying light after nightfall.
It's so exciting being right in the midst of the movement toward independence.
It's also very frightening.
Hi, we're from the Pennsylvania Gazette. We're trying to get information about the document that declares the colonies independent of Britain.
We'd like to ask you some questions, if you don't mind, that is.
I'm here to purchase some supplies for my shop. I've certainly observed some highly unusual goings-on.
Would you be willing to answer some questions?
Go ahead and ask me anything you'd like.
Who is involved in the drafting of the Declaration of Independence?
Well, I saw a group headed toward the State House, but I couldn't really identify any of them. I don't know their names, but they are members of the Second Continental Congress. They'll be remembered as men who had the courage to risk their comfort for the sake of freedom.
What are some of the main ideas contained in the Declaration of Independence?
I don't know for sure, but I overheard people coming from the State House referring to George III as the royal brute. I wonder if they've included their reasons for calling the king such a name. I haven't seen the document, but I hope they're addressing the unjustness of British taxation.
When was it decided to declare independence?
I was on my way to buy some supplies when I heard a group of congressmen making lots of noise about independence. When was that? Must have been early June. I wish I could tell you more, but I just can't remember.
Where was the Declaration of Independence written?
I saw a group that spoke of independence right here in town. Congress was definitely meeting somewhere in Philadelphia.
Why do you think the Congress decided to declare independence?
Everywhere I go, I hear talk about the reasons for declaring independence. It seems that a few colonists just haven't made up their minds about whether declaring independence is a wise decision. Public opinion is beginning to support independence. Declaring independence will allow the colonies to assume a separate and equal station among the powers of the earth. America intends to rule itself, free from British laws from now on.
You know, I've heard stories of patriots hiding in barns to escape being killed by soldiers.
I've heard stories of mice hiding in barns to escape being killed by cats. Doesn't look like anyone's hiding in here.
Not even a mouse. This is quite a find. A bag of gold coins.
Hello again.
A letter, and secured with a red wax seal.
Oh!
The door to the flat.
Well, well.
John Dickinson supports resistance. Thank you for bringing me this letter. If you want to get a full picture of recent events, you must speak with Thomas Jefferson. He's quite busy, so I'll send a message requesting that he grant you an interview. But first, go ahead and ask me any questions you'd like.
Who is involved in the drafting of the Declaration of Independence?
I trust I'm not putting anyone's life at risk by naming names. I will tell you that a man who writes better than I wrote the original draft. Well, a committee appointed by the Second Continental Congress to create the document selected Jefferson to write the first draft.
What are some of the main ideas contained in the Declaration of Independence?
It's best I not reveal the contents of the Declaration until it's been made public. Well, I guess it won't hurt for me to tell you that one part of the document declares the colonies no longer to have any allegiance to Britain.
When was it decided to declare independence?
It was certainly a momentous day. Congress decided on June 7th of this year, and a committee began working on it 4 days later.
Where was the Declaration of Independence written?
I think why Congress decided to declare independence is much more important than where it was written.
Why do you think the Congress decided to declare independence?
The reasons are too numerous to list right now. They've been enumerated quite clearly in the Declaration, however. Have you read the pamphlet Common Sense? Many colonists did, and after years of unfair taxes and British tyranny, it helped to convince them that a republic is better than a monarchy. Perhaps the Declaration will convince the French to support us.
Jefferson's flat.
A quiet retreat to focus on penning the words of freedom.
Or as some might call them, treason.
Thomas Jefferson of Virginia? I've read some of the eloquent pamphlets you published.
I too admire the eloquence of your words, but your ideas frighten me.
Words are powerful tools.
We'd like to ask you some questions.
Before I speak with you, I need to complete some correspondence, but I'm running low on ink. Could you locate another bottle for me? A fresh bottle of ink. Now I can finish my writing. How can I help you?
Who is involved in the drafting of the Declaration of Independence?
Yes, I do know who was involved in drafting the document, but I'm in rather a hurry at the moment. I'm really quite busy, though I do believe it's important that the colonists remain informed. Quickly now, write this down. Tell them that the Second Continental Congress appointed a committee to draft the document. I originally tried to convince John Adams to write the draft.
What are some of the main ideas contained in the Declaration of Independence?
I don't know that I should reveal all that's in it, but I will tell you that Congress has mutilated my original draft and removed several sections I believe are important. The Declaration of Independence states that the colonies are free and independent states, that all political connection between them and Britain is dissolved, and that they have full power to levy war, form alliances, and establish commerce.
When was it decided to declare independence?
I'm sorry I can't help you. I've been working very hard since the decision was made, and I have no time to talk.
Where was the Declaration of Independence written?
I'd be happy to speak with you when I have a bit more time. I can tell you I spent hours composing the rough draft in my apartment here in Philadelphia. After I'd perfected it, I brought it to the committee at the State House for review.
Why do you think the Congress decided to declare independence?
Congress made a wise decision to choose this point in time to declare independence. Public opinion now supports the idea of independence following the publication of Thomas Paine's booklet, Common Sense.
Welcome back. I'm anxious to get all the details.
That was incredible, Moses. What a story. A new nation born for freedom and liberty.
The document that Thomas Jefferson and the others created is certainly impressive. I'm just not sure if completely breaking away from Britain is the best thing to do.
Well, I'm sure this Declaration of Independence is critical for our readers to learn all about. We need to get the word out. Head over to the editing desk to decide which quotes you want to put in your story. Try to pick the best quotes from your notebook pages. Select a part of your story and then choose a quote to go there. Remember, you can get feedback about the quotes you choose before you print your article. Don't feedback a Good work! If you think you have finished editing your story, go to the layout area in front of the printing press to design the front page of your newspaper. This is the layout area, where you can make your newspaper front page look just the way you want before you print it out. Choose a sketch for your front page and type in a headline. Publish the paper once you are finished. The Declaration of Independence declares that the colonies are now free and independent states. The United States of America has been born. We need to get this story into our readers' hands. Great job, you two. Don't forget to look at the chalkboard to see how many newspapers your story has sold. I'll send a copy over to Ben in Paris. If I can find a fast ship, it could get to him by the end of summer.
Well, it appears that the British are not too pleased about our Declaration of Independence. My French friends are impressed, however. Yet I fear that they are still hesitant to give us the help we desperately need. Though Washington is an inspiring leader, he has yet to win a battle. Without support from Congress, his ragtag army may leave him at any time.
Well, Sarah and James, things have been a little slow lately, haven't they? The weather is too cold and the roads well nigh impassable at Christmas time for any fighting to take place, and the miserable weather is echoed in the mood of the soldiers. From what I hear, they may desert Washington at any time.
Well, we need to be ready, just in case.
A big news story certainly could surprise us at any time.
As reporters, you'll have to ask the right questions and get the facts. If there is a new assignment on the bulletin board, you can investigate that story. I've just had news that the Continental Army has finally secured a victory. You know that Britain does not have enough soldiers in its own army to win this war, so they hired professional soldiers from Germany to fight for them.
They're known as Hessians, isn't that right?
Yes, from what I hear, the Continental Army has successfully attacked the Hessians. See what you can find out about this victory.
This is great news. Don't you think so, Sarah?
I think I'll wait and find out the facts before I draw any conclusions, James.
We need to find out all the details, and it's up to you. You need to determine the who, what, when, and where behind this victory. And of course, as always, be sure to get at least 2 quotes about why people think it happened. And if at all possible, try to interview at least 1 Continental soldier. I want the opinion of someone who's right in the action.
A Continental soldier? Shouldn't we talk to those in charge?
Yes, James, we will. But don't forget, good reporters look for all sides to a story.
The questions you need to ask are in your notebook. Dig hard for the best possible information. That means accurate and insightful reporting. And stay out of trouble. Good luck, and Godspeed.
Come on, let's go. The Continental Army's camp is right here on the Delaware River.
So I assume the Hessians are on the other side of the river, over there in Trenton.
From what Moses told us about the Continental Army's victory, I doubt there are many Hessians over there anymore.
Let's warm our hands up by the fire.
Sarah, be strong. These soldiers have nothing but tents to protect them from the cold.
I saw some soldiers sleeping in the snow back there. They didn't even have blankets.
It's cold, but I'd be willing to sleep in the snow for the cause of liberty.
In that case, I'll check out the inside of the guardhouse while you enjoy the weather. A Brown Bess musket, the standard armament of a British regular.
A trained soldier can fire and reload a musket in about 15 seconds.
Hey, no admittance without permission. Hey, no admittance without permission.
Some of the soldiers have rags wrapped around their feet.
Their boots have worn completely through. A coil of rope.
Most of these soldiers' enlistments are up in just a few days. I don't think a single victory will convince them to re-enlist under these conditions.
They may be cold and hungry, but this victory proves they can win. Hardtack is made from flour and water and, as you can tell from the name, it can be difficult to chew.
Hi, I'm Sarah from the Pennsylvania Gazette.
And I'm James. We'd like to ask you a few questions about your recent victory.
Yeah, you've never seen such a battle. The enemy didn't even see us coming.
Can we ask you a few questions?
I'd like to help, but I've got orders to get that fire pit cleaned, and I can't locate a shovel anywhere.
If we found you a shovel, would you take a few moments to answer our questions?
Sure, sounds good to me. In fact, if you get me that shovel, I might be able to get you permission to enter the guardhouse so you could interview the guard as well.
Brr, that was a chilly boat ride.
A shovel. Someone's been doing some digging.
If you find me a shovel, I'll be glad. Thanks for finding this shovel. You can go ahead and check out the guardhouse if you like. But first, why don't you stop for a moment and ask me your questions?
Who is involved in the American victory at Trenton?
As a soldier, my job is to follow orders. If I do so, I've been promised my freedom when the war is ended. General Washington led us, and he is surely the reason we prevailed. Despite the bitter cold, he insisted on remaining with us at all times.
What led to the Army's victory?
It took all my energy just to stay alive and do my job, but I'm sure the general could tell you more. Well, I could tell you that the battle was over pretty quickly.
When did the victory occur?
It was Christmas night when we started. The Hessians were celebrating the holiday. We crossed the river on December 25th. We marched into town an hour after sunrise on the morning of December 26th.
Where did the Army's victory occur?
Everywhere we went, it was miserably cold and icy. The battle wasn't far from our camp in Pennsylvania, but it sure took a lot of time and energy to get there. Everywhere we went, it was miserably cold and icy.
Why was the victory so important to the Continental Army?
Perhaps when the states gain their freedom, the injustice of slavery will be banished forever in this new land. The Continental Army needed this victory to hold the troops together and keep the hopes of the Revolution alive.
It's so good to get out of the wind.
I don't think you're tough enough to be a soldier, Sarah.
It's not courage I lack, James. I'm simply not convinced this cause is justified.
A cartridge contains a bullet and pre-measured gunpowder. Cartridges save time when having to load a musket, and they're easy to carry. You're a soldier with the Continental Army? Please tell us about your victory.
Yes, there's never been a victory like this one. But I'm still eager to go home.
Go home? So you still think the cause is hopeless?
No, he doesn't think that, Sarah. You don't think all is lost, do you, sir?
Right now, I'm just thinking about sitting by a warm fire as I recount our victory. Do you think you could find me a tinderbox?
Until recently, there were 2 or 3 ferries that carried travelers across the Delaware River.
What? You didn't enjoy our boat ride?
Hello, we're with the Pennsylvania Gazette and would like to ask you a few questions about the Continental Army's recent victory.
Victory? It seems our lives would have been better off had we tried to reconcile with Britain rather than begin this unwinnable war.
So you believe the rebels' cause is hopeless?
I believe what I really need is a pair of warm boots. When the Hessian army arrived, they took whatever they needed. Then the Continental Army came through and caused further havoc.
We can surely find you some boots. If we need some help, we can always recall Ben's expertise. How could a battle be fought in a snowstorm? Wouldn't the moisture ruin the gunpowder?
I imagine the soldiers must have fought with their bayonets.
For a town of only about 100 homes, Trenton seems a busy place.
Yes, because of its location, travelers often stop here to break up their journey.
The light in the windows looks so inviting and warm.
Sarah, you are always thinking about the cold. That food smells delicious.
And you, James, are always thinking about your stomach. I've heard many of the Hessian soldiers did not even volunteer to serve. They were forced into service by the German princes.
Yes, the only pay most of them receive is their meals.
Hello, Henri. Did Moses send you here also?
Oh, not really. I was just so excited about the victory, I couldn't stay away. Oh, how I wish I were old enough to enlist.
So, what have you heard about the victory?
Well, I have been talking to the soldiers. They are a ragged lot, they are. What is it I can tell you?
Who is involved in the American victory at Trenton?
I hear the Americans took on the Hessians and showed them who was in charge.
What led to the Army's victory?
I'm not really sure, but the Continental Army finally scored a victory.
When did the victory occur?
All I know is the soldiers were always complaining of the cold. Bitter cold. That's what they said.
Where did the Army's victory occur?
Where? Who cares where? All that matters is that they won. Check around for yourselves. I'm sure there's somebody around here who can give you all the details.
Why was the victory so important to the Continental Army?
The men seem pretty happy about the victory, don't you think? But I still hear them talking about leaving as soon as their enlistments are up.
After witnessing the conditions in the Continental Army camp, I appreciate a warm room even more.
I'll say, the smell of food on a griddle.
And the warmth of a roaring fire. Hello. Moses, Ben Franklin's associate at the Pennsylvania Gazette, sent us to find out about the apparent Continental Army victory.
Apparent? Apparently they captured almost 1,000 Hessians.
I can try to tell you what I know, but I'm only a butcher who supplies meat to the Hessian army.
Well, getting a variety of opinions is essential.
I can certainly answer a few questions, but first, I have an immediate need for a jackknife.
How can we help?
If you could locate a Hessian soldier who escaped injury or capture by the Continental Army, he can surely give you the jackknife I need.
Before the victory, the Hessian soldiers were quartered in various homes throughout Trenton.
There may be some who escaped capture still here. We must be sure to get the Hessian point of view.
Of the victory?
Let's not refer to it as a victory should we interview a Hessian soldier.
Aren't you a Hessian soldier? How did you escape capture by the Continental Army?
James! Please, sir, we're from the Pennsylvania Gazette. We'd like to ask you a few questions.
You know, they call us Hessians because many of us are from an area of Germany called Hesse-Kassel. I did not volunteer. I was forced to come here so our leader would be paid by the British.
As journalists, we think it's important to get all points of view. Right, James?
Right, Sarah.
Many of my comrades were captured or killed. I am lucky that I am still welcome in this home. Unfortunately, I am cold and there are no extra blankets. Do you think you could locate one for me? I am cold and there are no extra blankets. Do you think you could locate?
It appears the Continental Army may be preparing for another attack.
Surely the men will be allowed to rest first.
General George Washington? The commander of the Continental Army?
Yes? How can I help you?
We're reporters from the Pennsylvania Gazette. We've been sent to find out about the Continental Army's recent victory. May we ask you a few questions?
To be honest, I am waiting for a secret message from a spy.
A spy?
I cannot answer your questions unless I am sure I can trust you with secrets. Can you find the spy and bring me the secret message?
You can trust us. We'll bring you your message. Prior to this victory, the Continental Army had retreated all the way through New York and New Jersey.
Yes, the Hessians remained in Trenton only because the Americans had all the available boats on the other side of the river. I wonder if a copy of the pamphlet The American Crisis by Thomas Paine is among these books.
Perhaps. It was read aloud to General Washington.
A good pair of boots.
If you could locate a Hessian soldier who was...
What I need is a pair of warm boots. Ah, my feet are warm at last. Thank you. I'll try to answer your questions, though I have never supported the idea of independence.
Who is involved in the American victory at Trenton?
I don't know the details. Well, I hear General Washington is loved and respected by his men. He must have been the one involved in such a victory.
What led to the Army's victory?
A victory? I'd call attacking sleeping and unarmed men a massacre. It seems somehow it didn't occur to the Hessians that the rebels might attack at such a time. The surprise factor allowed them to win.
When did the victory occur?
Oh, you insist on calling this sneak attack a victory? Well, all I know is it was cold.
Where did the Army's victory occur?
Thank goodness none of it happened in my fields. Well, the rebels' camp is on the Pennsylvania side of the Delaware River. After crossing the river, they attacked the sleeping Hessians in Trenton, New Jersey.
Why was the victory so important to the Continental Army?
Must you continue to call this a victory? Don't forget that ragtag Continental Army has been pushed out of New York. Perhaps now the British will take the rebels more seriously. Obviously, if they're sneaky, they can win a battle here and there.
This place is so stark and cold. I do miss England.
But Sarah, if you return to England, who will remind me to consider the British point of view? Wrong as it may be.
Right now, I'm just thinking about sitting by a warm fire as I recount our victory. Do you think you could find me a tinderbox?
A tinderbox. It
Right now, I'm just... There's nothing like a warm fire. What would you like to know?
Who is involved in the American victory at Trenton?
Victory. What a sweet word. It was our first after many retreats, you know. Regardless, I'm still hungry and cold. My term of enlistment is over soon, on January 1st.
What led to the Army's victory?
I didn't make the plans. I only did what I was told to do. We crossed the icy Delaware River on a miserable snowy night. Then we marched 9 miles to surprise the Hessians.
When did the victory occur?
I can't exactly recall. We really haven't slept in several days. We planned to attack before dawn on the day after Christmas. We still surprised them, even though it was an hour after sunrise by the time we arrived.
Where did the Army's victory occur?
We crossed a river to do battle.
Why was the victory so important to the Continental Army?
I'm not certain one victory will make a difference. We're still cold and tired and hungry. Well, since this victory comes after a long course of retreats, it may give new life to our cause. Perhaps it'll even convince a few soldiers to re-enlist.
This is quite a find.
This is a reference guide of people, places, and dates of the American Revolution.
Welcome back. Try to pick the best quote. Feedback. Remember, you can get feedback about the quotes you choose. Feedback appears below. Good work. If you think you have finished editing your story, go to the layout area. This is the layout area, where you can make your newspaper front page look just the way you want before you print it out. Choose a sketch for your front page and type in a headline. Publish the paper once you are finished. Washington's crossing of the Delaware River and his defeat of the Hessian army at Trenton has dealt the British a serious blow. Finally, the American Continental Army has a victory to raise their spirits. We want our readers to get this news quickly. Let's get to work. Well done, Sarah and James. You can see how well you're doing on the chalkboard. Ben will be really interested in this news.
So, General Washington had a little Christmas present for the Hessian soldiers at Trenton. A sneak attack across the Delaware, in a snowstorm no less. That's what we need, courage and initiative. If only my French friends would be swayed by this news. It seems that it will take a major defeat of the British to convince them to join us. We need their financial support, not to mention the help of their navy. We just don't have the ships to confront the British at sea.
Well, James and Sarah, I've been hearing rumors of a major British advance somewhere in New York State. We need to be listening for any news.
We're ready to go whenever you give us the word.
As reporters, you'll have to ask the right questions and get the facts and opinions that make the most accurate and interesting story. As a matter of fact, an exciting assignment has just come in. You'll find it over on the bulletin board. If there is a new assignment on the bulletin board, you can investigate that story. If there is no new assignment, finish working on your current story. You can also select a finished front page to see it or print it out. This is a copy of your published newspaper. Select the print button to print it out. If there is a new, this is a copy of your published newspaper. Select the print button to print it. If there is a new, this is a copy of your published newspaper. Select the print button to print. If there is a new assignment, this is a copy of your published newspaper. Select the, if there is a new assignment on the bulletin board, you can investigate that story.
Choose which area of the reference guide you would like to see.
If there is a new... I just received word that the Americans have been victorious in battle at Saratoga. It's no secret that the British plan for ending the war was to cut the New England states off from the rest of the country, with Burgoyne's army from the north meeting two others coming from the south and west.
It appears the British plan failed. No way that will happen now.
It appears we need to find out exactly what happened.
We need to find out all the details. Sarah, James, it's up to you. You need to determine the who, what, when, and where behind this American victory. And I want thorough reporting here. Be sure to get at least 2 different thoughts about why people think it happened. And if at all possible, try to make one of them Benedict Arnold. My instinct tells me he was involved somehow.
Benedict Arnold. His bravery inspires the soldiers.
The questions you need to ask are in your notebook. Don't forget to listen for the quotes that contain the most accurate and complete information. Good luck, and Godspeed.
Why didn't the British realize how difficult it would be for them to communicate in the thick forests of New York?
They were hoping that this campaign would lead to a quick victory for the king.
Sounds like a couple of them had their own agendas. There's the American camp. Look at the fortifications that surround it.
A Polish engineer named Thaddeus Kosciuszko prepared those fortifications.
I thought building a fort was as simple as nailing a few boards into place.
I bet the British wish you'd built this fort. It might not have been an American victory in that case.
Until recently, General Schuyler was the commander of these American forces.
Yes, Congress replaced him after the British captured Fort Ticonderoga.
The king was a bit premature when he stated he had beaten all Americans after that battle.
General Gates has ordered me to remain in my tent for defying his command during the battle. I can't let you in.
When General Gates replaced Schuyler, he moved the American forces here.
Yes, once the British Army crossed the Hudson River, the stage was set for the battle.
I think the stage is set for us to ask some questions. An iron kettle. Very heavy, but useful for cooking food over a campfire. Benedict Arnold was sent to this camp, but it's rumored that he and General Gates have quarreled.
I admire General Arnold's bravery, but he shouldn't defy his orders.
You surprise me, James. You support the rebels who defy the king. A chessboard. My father taught me to play chess in England.
You're General Gates, aren't you? The commander of all the American forces in the North?
I am. Some in Congress believe I should replace General Washington as Commander-in-Chief.
May we ask you a few questions? Moses of the Pennsylvania Gazette sent us to find out about the American victory.
At the moment, I'm waiting for a British soldier to bring a message from General Burgoyne. If the British general accepts the terms of surrender I have offered, I have agreed that we will call this surrender a convention.
We'll find the soldier and bring the message to you.
If you bring me that message, I'll command Benedict Arnold to speak with you. Though he defied my orders, his fearlessness and recklessness on the battlefield helped achieve this victory.
Some British troops recently defeated General Washington in Philadelphia.
Yes, the Battle of Brandywine was a victory for the British, but that didn't help the British in this area. This cabin appears to be abandoned.
No wonder. Cannonballs have passed through the roof. I'm never certain just which branch of a path I should take.
If you stand here and debate it for very long, I'll be finished exploring them both.
There doesn't seem to be any reason to go any further.
You're right. Let's look around here and head back. A blanket. That looks useful.
I've never seen so many hills and ravines.
Don't tell—
Excuse us, ma'am. We're from the Pennsylvania Gazette. We'd like to ask you a few questions about the American victory.
Did you fight in the battle? I didn't realize there were ladies fighting in the battle.
Oh, we don't usually fight. We travel with our soldier husbands, cooking, mending uniforms, and tending to the sick and wounded. Occasionally, however, we must bring water to soldiers on the battlefield.
I'd like to get a lady's thoughts on the victory.
I'd like to talk to you also. However, I'm expected to start dinner right away. The soldiers are hungry, and I can't locate a kettle. Could you bring me one? Thank you. I'll get some water boiling right away. Would you mind taking this bottle of ink to General Benedict Arnold? He'd like to write a letter to Congress. He deserves recognition for his courage. I'll set the ink right here on this log. Don't forget it now. But first, I'd love to talk with you while I'm waiting for my kettle to boil.
Who was involved in the Battle of Saratoga?
My husband fought in the battle. I hear the men cheered and were inspired by General Benedict Arnold's dash across the battlefield, but he'll be reprimanded for defying General Gates' orders. The British leader was Burgoyne.
What factors led to the American victory?
I wouldn't know the details. I'm the wife of a Continental Army soldier. My job is to cook and do the wash, not make battle plans.
When did the events leading to victory occur?
I never forget dates. Actually, there were 2 battles that occurred here. The first was back in September of this year. The second battle was a couple of weeks later. 18 days after the first battle, the British surrendered. Today, October 17th.
Where did the events leading to victory occur?
I was in camp during the battle. I was busy tending to injured soldiers.
Why was the American victory so important?
Had my husband been killed during the battle, I would have been left alone and heartbroken. This victory may breathe new life into the American cause, now that the Army has shown Britain, and itself, its might.
A British general was killed during the battle.
General Fraser. Americans shot at the group of British soldiers attending his funeral.
But they apologized later. They didn't realize a funeral was going on.
A journal. Many people keep journals of important events or experiences in their lives.
Part of the problem with the British plan must have been the terrible condition of the roads here in New York.
At least there are roads around here. Most of New York is covered with dense forests. Evidently, the Americans started a rumor about a huge colonial force heading toward one of the British camps.
Yes, and that lie caused many Iroquois Indians to desert another British army that was to have joined up with Burgoyne. Without their Indian allies, the British didn't have enough manpower to win.
All's fair in war, Sarah.
The British knew they would run low on supplies last summer, so they sent a German expedition into Vermont to seize Patriot supplies.
That bad idea is known as the Battle of Bennington, and the American militia was the clear winner there. Sir, we're reporters from the Pennsylvania Gazette and...
James, let me. I will be a bit more diplomatic. We'd like to ask you about the recent, battle.
No need to beat around the bush. I'm a British soldier serving under General Burgoyne. I know we're surrounded by American forces. In fact, I know that the conditions of surrender have been worked out.
Then you don't mind if we call it a victory?
Well, call it whatever you want to. I'm headed home. The terms of surrender don't allow us to serve again in America during the war.
Would you mind answering a few questions?
If I wasn't so hungry, I could answer your questions. We ran low on provisions days ago. Perhaps you could locate a loaf of bread for me.
General Gates has ordered me to remain.
A loaf of bread.
If I wasn't so hungry... Oh, thank you. We've been on half rations for days. I know plenty about the terms of surrender because I'm carrying a very important message from General Burgoyne. It says that we accept the American terms for surrender. Here, can you deliver it to the American general for me? I'll just set it here on top of those clothes. But first, go ahead and ask me your questions.
Who was involved in the Battle of Saratoga?
Ought to know the names of all the Americans. I'll tell you, though, there were lots more of them than us. American militia units just kept right on arriving to serve in General Gates's army.
What factors led to the American victory?
General Burgoyne couldn't wait any longer to attack the Americans. We were completely out of supplies. We had too poor a plan for such American resistance. That fool Arnold had 'em all riled up. They outnumbered us, and were they ever mad. We were out of supplies, and our allies went and deserted us.
When did the events leading to victory occur?
I can't remember. We got here after a long march south. Well, I think we got here in early September.
Where did the events leading to victory occur?
We didn't retreat very far before the Americans had us surrounded. Well, I know we're in New York, south of Fort Ticonderoga. Once we left there, we were lucky to travel a mile a day.
Why was the American victory so important?
We retreated in total disarray. It was an embarrassing defeat. General Burgoyne hopes that calling this surrender a convention will make it look like less of a disaster. Well, I don't like to admit it, but the courage of the Americans surprised us all. It forces us to abandon hopes for a quick and easy end to the war.
A message on a scroll. Someone may be needing this.
General Gates.
I'm waiting for a British... Ah, yes. It looks as though the British will accept the conditions of surrender I offered. I've sent a messenger to Arnold's tent. You may speak with him, if you wish. I'd be happy to answer your questions now.
Who was involved in the Battle of Saratoga?
Congress just recently appointed me to take over this unit. Daniel Morgan and his riflemen rushed from the hill, overwhelming the British. Benedict Arnold behaved like a madman, but his prank forced Burgoyne to retreat. As commander of the Northern Army, I should be hailed as the hero of Saratoga.
What factors led to the American victory?
Our success depends upon soldiers following orders. Arnold will not be rewarded for his mad prank. The tide is turning in our favor. The first battle here was a draw, but we were victorious in the second.
When did the events leading to victory occur?
More than 2 weeks passed between the first and the second battles. We defeated them on the battlefield in early October, but it was 10 more days before the terms of surrender were worked out.
Where did the events leading to victory occur?
Luckily, the fighting didn't happen here. During the battle, I stayed in my headquarters. The fighting took place about 10 miles from Saratoga.
Why was the American victory so important?
I bet they'll come to call this battle a turning point of the American Revolution. This victory will inspire the troops to continue their fight. As you must know, Benjamin Franklin has been urging the French government to aid the American cause. This victory may persuade France that the Americans can win, and Britain that the fight is far from over.
I've heard a message from the British force in Philadelphia to the British force here was intercepted by Americans.
Yes, The message was placed in a silver bowl. The messenger swallowed it when he was captured.
That's not a message I'd want to intercept.
Mr. Arnold? General Benedict Arnold? We're from the Pennsylvania Gazette. We'd like to ask you some questions about the recent American victory.
Are you certain you want to interview me? I'm quite unpopular with the politicians, I'm afraid.
But you are certainly respected by the soldiers.
They admire your bravery, and we do too.
Thank you. I'd be pleased to answer your questions. First, however, I must write a letter to a friend in Congress requesting that they reconsider my promotion in light of my performance during this battle. Unfortunately, I can't locate a bottle of ink.
We'd be honored to help you get that letter written.
I observed one of the soldiers' wives writing a letter just yesterday. Perhaps she has a bottle of ink I can use.
A bottle of ink.
I observed one of the soldiers. Thank you. I'll get that letter to Congress written right away. I'd be happy to answer your questions now.
Who was involved in the Battle of Saratoga?
We wouldn't have been victorious if I'd followed General Gates' orders and stayed in camp. I don't expect Congress to recognize my part in this victory. Even though I was shot during the battle, I'm sure General Gates will get all the credit.
What factors led to the American victory?
My leadership and bravery were instrumental. When the British divided their forces, our numbers, along with my leadership, enabled us to win this encounter.
When did the events leading to victory occur?
It was starting to get very cold, I'll tell you that. It's fortunate it happened after I arrived. General Gates did nothing but sit in his headquarters during the battles.
Where did the events leading to victory occur?
Where it happened is not as important as who was involved. As a matter of fact, neither battle was fought in Saratoga. Saratoga is where the British finally surrendered after losing a battle at Freeman's Farm, near Bemis Heights, 10 miles to the south.
Why was the American victory so important?
I doubt this victory will help my career. General Gates will be sure I never get the promotion I deserve. The British will have to give up their hopes for a quick victory now. And after this victory, France may even come to our aid.
Well,
thousands of colonists have joined militias that make the Continental Army even stronger.
Speaking of strong, James, perhaps you ought to think about taking a bath here in the river. Sir, we'd like to ask you a few questions about the recent battle.
I have fought in several recent battles. I am a Hessian soldier, serving under General von Riedesel.
The battle we want to discuss is the one that resulted in the American victory.
Yes, the Americans outnumbered us. We had no choice but to retreat. Now, with the Americans surrounding us, we have no choice but to surrender.
May we ask you some questions?
You may, but first the Baroness von Riedesel expects me to deliver a letter to her husband, General von Riedesel. I must go get that letter right away.
We'll go get the letter for you.
The British plan relied on help from the Iroquois, as well as a strong Loyalist following.
Yeah, the Iroquois Confederacy is actually made up of 6 nations.
Yes, there are many differing views within the Iroquois, just as there are within the states. Hi, I'm Sarah, and this is James. We're with the Pennsylvania Gazette.
We're here to find out about the American victory.
I am from the Mohawk Nation, part of the Iroquois Confederacy. We support the British cause, so this was not a victory for us.
The British cause? But didn't Benedict Arnold enlist some Iroquois to help the American cause?
Yes, the Oneidas are aiding the Americans. This war has caused a rift among the Iroquois people.
May we ask you some questions?
You may, though first I must find a blanket I misplaced. Perhaps you have seen it while traveling through the area.
We'll look for it.
This blanket was made by my grandmother. Thank you for finding it. Ask me your questions. I'd like to tell you how this war has affected the Iroquois people.
Who was involved in the Battle of Saratoga?
The Iroquois are good British allies. Many of us are trained warriors. Some have been with Burgoyne since he was in Canada. I have heard many of the names before. Gates, Arnold, Burgoyne. But I'm not sure who did what. Most of the Iroquois people are fighting for the British, but some have sided with the Americans.
What factors led to the American victory?
The surprisingly well-led American troops outnumbered the British. Perhaps if the divided British troops had moved through the woods as quickly as the Iroquois, the Americans wouldn't have prevailed.
When did the events leading to victory occur?
Recently, yes. Definitely very recently. Recently, yes.
Where did the events leading to victory occur?
Yes, I can tell you. We Iroquois know our way around the land. The battles were fought in an area they call Freeman's Farm. It is near Bemis Heights, where the American forces are camped. It is about 10 miles south of Saratoga, New York.
Why was the American victory so important?
I can't tell you why this victory is significant, but I can tell you this revolution has caused a civil war among the Iroquois people. The British have kept the colonists from expanding further west. It is in the best interest of the Iroquois people to help them.
British and Hessian women and children took refuge in this cellar.
There appear to be quite a few wounded soldiers as well.
What a dismal place!
Hello, I'm James and this is...
Sarah. We're here to find out about the recent battle.
Battle? She means victory.
Yes, I know of the American victory. My husband is General Friedrich von Riedesel. He led the Hessian forces fighting under British General Burgoyne.
You're here in America with your husband, a Hessian general?
My children are with us also. It isn't easy to keep the family together under these conditions.
It must be very difficult. May we ask you some questions?
I could better answer your questions if I could locate my journal. It describes everything that has happened. My journal! It would have broken my heart to have lost it. Can I burden you with just one more favor? I must get a message to my husband. If you'd give this letter to a Hessian soldier, he will be sure my husband receives it. I'll set it right here on the bed. I'd be happy to share my experiences with you now.
Who was involved in the Battle of Saratoga?
Many of these people living in the north seem to have joined the militias that went to strengthen General Gates' American army. General Burgoyne devised the failed British plan. We were supposed to link up with 2 other British forces and take control of New York.
What factors led to the American victory?
Perhaps if General Burgoyne hadn't spent half his nights singing and drinking, and had instead prepared a better plan, we might have fared better. General Burgoyne was wrong not to expect a large, dedicated American militia.
When did the events leading to victory occur?
I'm sure I wrote the exact date in my journal. I had expected to give a little dinner party that night. Let me see. It was early October. I enjoyed the autumn foliage during the interlude between the two battles.
Where did the events leading to victory occur?
I do not know exactly where I am. My children and I have spent the last 6 days huddled in the cellar among wounded soldiers. We couldn't even venture out to get water without fear of being shot. But the Americans have treated us with kindness since our surrender.
Why was the American victory so important?
I suspect the British may have to change their strategy. The Americans performed better on the battlefield than the British thought possible. This is the largest British force that has ever surrendered to an enemy. Such a surrender may persuade France to come to the aid of the Americans.
A letter, and secured with a red wax seal.
The Baroness von Riedesel. Thank you. I'll deliver this letter to General von Riedesel right away. It has been so difficult for his family, confined to a cellar day after day. Now, go ahead and ask me your questions.
Who was involved in the Battle of Saratoga?
They outnumbered us, that's for sure. There was an American madman who dashed across the battlefield on his horse, leading his troops against Burgoyne's army. We shot him in the leg.
What factors led to the American victory?
I know nothing about the British plan. I am only here because I was forced to come. We did much better in the first battle. Maybe we should have attacked again sooner.
When did the events leading to victory occur?
It was a fall morning. Yes, of course. The first battle occurred on September 19th, 1777. The second battle, the one the Americans won, was on October 7th, 18 days later. We surrendered soon after.
Where did the events leading to victory occur?
I don't know the names of the places around here. I am from across the ocean. Well, after the battles, we retreated here to Saratoga. It wasn't long before the American army had us completely surrounded.
Why was the American victory so important?
It makes no difference to me. I only hope I will be sent home, and soon. Since the battle, there has been considerable misery and confusion in the British army. Perhaps the British will have no respect for the American soldiers and realize they are in for more serious battles.
Welcome back. I'm anxious to get all the details.
I'm glad we were able to get the facts about this very important event, even though it was a battle where many brave soldiers lost their lives.
I was amazed how both sides are willing to sacrifice so much for what they believe in.
You're learning, James, how complex the issues are. I have a feeling that the Battle of Saratoga may be the turning point in this war, especially if it convinces the French to join the cause of the Americans. Ben is still in France, gaining support for our cause. We need to make sure that everyone knows about this important victory. Head over to the editing desk to put together your story. Try to pick the best quotes from your... Feedback appears below each of your... Good work. If you think you have finished, this is the layout area, where you can make your newspaper front page look just the way you want before you print it out. Choose a sketch for your front page and type in a headline. Publish the paper once you are finished. The Battle of Saratoga is being called the turning point of the Revolutionary War. It seems that this American victory has convinced France to join our side. We need to get this story into our readers' hands. Well done again, Sarah and James. You can see how many papers we've sold on the chalkboard. Your story about the British defeat at Saratoga will be of great interest to Ben. Perhaps it will even convince the French to join us.
Oh, this is grand news indeed. A victory of this magnitude should be enough to sway the French to the American side. Their help is essential in winning this war for freedom.
With the war about 2.5 years old now, and winter fast upon us, this is a critical time for the Continental Army.
I sense a story about to break.
As reporters, you'll have to ask the right questions and get the facts and opinions that make the most accurate and interesting story. As a matter of fact, an exciting assignment has just come in. You'll find it over on the bulletin board. If there is a new assignment on the bulletin board, you can investigate that story. If there is no new assignment, finish working on your current story. You can also... I just received word that the Continental Army has evolved into a skilled professional military force.
The Continental Army has really been not much more than a group of starving, ragged amateur soldiers. They have certainly not proved to be much of a match for the British on the battlefield.
That has been true up until now. So I need you to find out how the morale and fighting capabilities of the Continental Army have been improved.
Sounds as though Britain might have a real challenge winning this war now. Let's go find out the details.
We need to find out all the details. Sarah, James, it's up to you. You need to determine who and what boosted the spirit and skill of the Continental Army, and when and where it occurred. And I want thorough reporting here. Be sure to get at least 2 quotes about why it happened. And if at all possible, try to make one of them George Washington.
George Washington, the Commander-in-Chief of the Continental Army? It's a great honor any time we can talk with him.
The questions you need to ask are in your notebook. Remember, listen carefully and make wise choices about what you save in your notebook. Excellence in reporting means a better story, which will equal more newspapers sold. Let the voice of liberty ring free and clear. Good luck and Godspeed.
Why do you suppose General Washington chose such a cold place for his winter encampment?
Now that sounds like an excellent question for the General. Not a lot of difference between the officers' quarters and the soldiers' quarters.
The officers' quarters are just a bit less crowded.
Aren't you the Marquis de Lafayette, one of the richest men in France?
James, General Lafayette is of French nobility.
Yes, but now I am here in America. I was drawn here by the American struggle for independence. I've come to aid the states as a volunteer.
May we ask you a few questions? Moses of the Pennsylvania Gazette sent us to find out about the recent improvements in the morale and professionalism of the Continental Army.
I have only recently returned here myself. In fact, I'm waiting for General Gates to send my trunk to camp so I can get settled. But once I've received my trunk, I could answer a few questions.
Could we locate General Gates and bring the trunk to you?
If you'll deliver my trunk to me, I'll let General Washington know you are here. Surely he will be able to provide you with plenty of information.
General Washington was once a surveyor. Traveling through uninhabited country must have taught him how to survive in unfamiliar environments.
Yes, his experiences in the French and Indian War taught him to be resourceful as well.
His whole life seems to have led him to becoming a skilled commander-in-chief.
The generals rented houses for their winter quarters.
Yes, I've heard General Washington's wife, Martha, spends every winter with him. Quite romantic, don't you think?
Please, Sarah. This is an army encampment. A jackknife.
I must finish this report to Congress. Please come back later.
Until recently, there were several American military stores in this area.
Unfortunately, when the British discovered them, they took the supplies and burned the buildings. With so many sick soldiers, temporary hospitals were set up all over the area.
Yes, barns, homes, and churches were all used as makeshift hospitals.
A knapsack.
A barn couldn't make for a very sanitary hospital.
Especially with the shortage of supplies and medical staff.
Let's look around here and get back. I don't want you to become ill, James.
A tinderbox.
Look, an abandoned supply wagon. This must be another explanation for the supply shortage.
Yes, I've heard the roads were often unpassable to wagons because of the mud and water.
A good pair of boots.
Unfortunately, not all American soldiers have boots. Some even have to march and fight barefoot.
We're entering York, right?
Yes, when the British took over Philadelphia, Congress moved here.
Henri, are you still trying to convince General Washington to let you enlist?
It doesn't hurt to try, does it? I'm a bit older now, you know.
Actually, maybe you can help us out a bit. How long have you been here?
I came here when the soldiers first arrived, but it was just plain miserable. I returned recently and...
Did you notice changes in the morale of the soldiers?
Certainly. It makes me really sorry I can't join up now. I can tell you what I've seen, but I have a problem. A lady sent me to buy a thimble and I left the money back in camp. The shopkeeper gave the thimble to me, but said I'd have to bring her the money right away.
Tell you what, we'll go get your money for you.
Magnifique!
I just read a pamphlet blaming General Washington for every failure of Congress.
It appears some are trying to turn the public against General Washington.
And replace him with a new commander-in-chief.
We can only carry 4 items at a time. A message on a scroll. Someone may be needing this.
So, while the soldiers were starving, it appears the rest of America had plenty to eat.
Unfortunately, you're correct. Many farmers are reluctant to sell their produce for continental currency.
You mean they aren't eager to be paid with worthless continental dollars?
Well, as long as we're here, we may as well eat.
Good thing you didn't have to endure the starvation of the American camp. You'd never survive on fire cakes.
A paste of flour and water cooked on hot stones? No thanks. General Gates? Remember us? James and Sarah from the Pennsylvania Gazette.
James, Sarah, yes. You met with me right after my victory at Saratoga.
Yes. This time we need to find out about the increased confidence and professionalism in the Continental Army.
I've heard rumors to that effect. How can I help you?
May we ask you a few questions?
I may be able to tell you a few things. However, I am awaiting a message from Congress. It seems they do not want to invade Canada, as I recommended. The message may have been delivered to a home here in town.
We'd be happy to go retrieve that message for you, General Gates.
As I suspected, the invasion of Canada will not occur. Perhaps you would not mind delivering this trunk by the table to the Marquis de Lafayette. He was to be commander-in-chief of the invasion, but I will not require his services now.
Who helped improve the morale and discipline of the Continental Army?
Don't bother asking General Washington. He's lost nearly every battle he's fought against the British. Some congressmen and army officers think I should replace General Washington as commander-in-chief. Victories tend to raise morale, you know.
What led to the improvements in the morale and discipline of the Continental Army?
I don't know exactly what led to the changes. I was busy serving as president of the new Board of War. As president of the Board of War, I appointed the Marquis de Lafayette to be in charge of the invasion of Canada, but his loyalties are with General Washington.
When did the improvements to the morale and discipline of the Continental Army occur?
Yes, I've heard there have been important changes in the Continental Army. The changes began when the Prussian general arrived, February 23, 1778. Morale and professionalism improved throughout the late winter and into the spring.
Where was the Continental Army when it improved in morale and discipline?
The location was chosen for a good reason. Here's the story. After General Washington lost Philadelphia to the British, Congress moved to York. Congress wanted the Continental Army camped somewhere between them and the British.
Why was it so important that the morale and discipline of the Continental Army be improved?
If America is to win on the battlefield, the troops must be disciplined. It appears that the troops have been taught how to maneuver on the battlefield, giving them a better chance of success.
A packing trunk. Many people use these for storing important items when they travel.
I'm waiting for General Thank you. I'm very eager to unpack. It's good to be back here with General Washington and his troops. I've sent a messenger to General Washington. You may speak with him if you wish.
Who helped improve the morale and discipline of the Continental Army?
I've been focused on preparing for battle. I was appointed by General Gates to be in charge of a campaign against Canada. I discovered that General Gates only appointed me to the position in hopes of shaking my loyalty to General Washington. General Gates wants to replace General Washington as Commander-in-Chief, but my support will always be with General Washington. I've been focused...
What led to the improvements in the morale and discipline of the Continental Army?
When I first arrived, the unfortunate soldiers were in want of everything, and the camp was unsanitary. Now the camp is tidy, and an orderly training method has improved the discipline of the soldiers.
When did the improvements to the morale and discipline of the Continental Army occur?
It was while I was away that the changes occurred.
Where was the Continental Army when it improved in morale and discipline?
It's an excellent location. Since the British are occupying Philadelphia, Congress has moved to York. The location is between the two towns. It's close enough to Philadelphia to allow us to monitor the British. The place is known as Valley Forge, Pennsylvania. It's about 20 miles northwest of Philadelphia.
Why was it so important that the morale and discipline of the Continental Army be improved?
Improved conditions should convince many soldiers to remain loyal to General Washington. When the Continental Army leaves its winter camp, it will be a strong, disciplined fighting force. This military strength, combined with the French alliance, will put the British in a panic. Improved conditions should convince many soldiers to remain loyal to General Washington.
We have saved that answer in our notebook already.
The soldiers have such admiration for General Washington. No one else could have held the army together under such hopeless conditions.
I think there may be some in Congress who fear he's too popular. They don't want to trade an English king for an American king. Hello, General Washington. We meet again.
We're always honored to have the opportunity to speak with the Commander-in-Chief of the Continental Army.
Sarah, James, it's good to see you both.
We have heard that there have been great improvements in the morale and professionalism of the troops.
Yes, there were many times when I feared the army would surely disintegrate. But now the soldiers are confident and disciplined.
Can you tell us more?
I'd be happy to tell you all about it. First, however, I must complete a report to Congress. Unfortunately, I left my portfolio somewhere in the camp. You know, a packet of my important papers.
We could look around and bring it back to you.
I must complete a report to Congress. Unfortunately, I left my portfolio somewhere in the camp.
We could...
After that long, cold journey, the soldiers were expected to build huts as soon as they arrived.
When the alternative was sleeping in the snow, even the most exhausted soldier must have found the strength.
Yes, but I heard that General Washington also offered money to the first group to finish its hut. These huts do look rather damp and smoky.
They contributed to the unhealthy living conditions here in camp.
Yes, I've heard that as many as 3,000 soldiers died here, or in nearby temporary hospitals.
What caused the death of so many soldiers? Did they starve?
No. Diseases such as dysentery, typhoid, and smallpox killed them.
Then General Washington saved lives when he insisted the troops be inoculated against smallpox. Well, well, a newspaper.
Sir, we're from the Pennsylvania Gazette.
Pennsylvania, huh? Myself, I'm from Connecticut. I'm used to these cold winters.
You're a slave?
I was, but I'm confident now that my future, as well as this country's, is one of freedom.
Well, we'd like to ask you a few questions about the improved morale in the Continental Army.
Yes, when we first arrived, we were hungry all the time, but much has changed since then.
May we ask you a few questions?
Certainly, but before I get too comfortable, I want to go get a new pair of boots. A supply wagon was abandoned last winter, and the men tell me that there are still some good boots packed inside. The boots I'm wearing are worn through.
We can go get those boots for you.
If we need some help.
Thank you. It's good to put on a pair of new boots. If I could ask just one more small favor, perhaps you could deliver a manual of regulations to General von Steuben. He's writing this manual based on his experiences training the soldiers here. I was just doing a bit of catching up. I've set it on the floor.
Who helped improve the morale and discipline of the Continental Army?
I noticed the change when I returned from a foraging party. You know, foraging is nothing more than seizing supplies from farmers, at the point of a bayonet if necessary. But we would have perished otherwise. A Prussian military officer named General von Steuben changed our training methods and improved camp sanitation. Our respect for General Washington also pulled us through until Quartermaster General Greene got us much-needed supplies.
What led to the improvements in the morale and discipline of the Continental Army?
After I returned from foraging, I was kept constantly engaged in learning the new Prussian military exercises designed to make us more effective soldiers. Von Steuben's methods of training and discipline were just what the Army needed.
When did the improvements to the morale and discipline of the Continental Army occur?
I keep a diary so I won't forget important dates. I'm uncertain of the exact date things began because I was still out foraging. I know that it was the end of February when General von Steuben showed up and started training the troops. Things started getting better soon after, and I had a lot of catching up to do when I returned.
Where was the Continental Army when it improved in morale and discipline?
All I know is that we didn't get supplies here most of the winter.
Why was it so important that the morale and discipline of the Continental Army be improved?
I suppose we'll leave the camp soon. There's a rumor that the British may abandon Philadelphia. I think when the British see our new professional army, we may give the British some concern.
A copy of Baron von Steuben's military training manual. He has a lot of experience training soldiers. I've heard stories of the suffering the troops faced when they arrived here.
I've heard tales of men without boots leaving bloody footprints in the snow, and stories of a chant.
No meat, no coat, no flour, no soldier. Sounds like some soldiers were about to leave.
At one point, almost 3,000 men were listed as unfit for duty because they lacked proper clothing.
They had no shirts, boots, or blankets.
And at the coldest time of the year. What led to the shortages in food and supplies?
I've heard the army supply system failed and...
The decline in the value of the continental currency made farmers reluctant to sell to the army.
Sarah, why do you ask a question when you already know the answer?
Hi, I'm Sarah, and this is James. We're with the Pennsylvania Gazette.
I am Polly Cooper. My people are the Oneida, the people of the Standing Stone. I am here to aid the Continental Army.
In that case, have you noticed an increased morale and professionalism in the Army recently?
Yes, much has changed here in camp since I arrived.
What can you tell us about the changes you've seen?
I can tell you a bit, but first I must find my knapsack. I used it to carry some medicine to a nearby farmer who was ill. I believe I may have left the knapsack near his barn. Thank you. This knapsack contains medicine I made from the silk of corn. Corn has many uses, you know. Would you return the portfolio I just set down to General Washington? He left it here in camp. It's full of important papers, and he must be missing it.
Who helped improve the morale and discipline of the Continental Army?
Morale was low because the soldiers were cold and hungry. We Oneidas walked hundreds of miles to bring corn to these soldiers when they were starving.
What led to the improvements in the morale and discipline of the Continental Army?
I don't concern myself with military matters. My concern is that the men be fed. Most of the Oneidas left after the corn was delivered. I stayed behind to teach the soldiers how to prepare the corn, but I was too busy to notice much else around me.
When did the improvements to the morale and discipline of the Continental Army occur?
Yes, there does seem to be an improved spirit in the soldiers. The arrival of this year's spring brought schools of shad to the river, and with it a new confidence to the soldiers.
Where was the Continental Army when it improved in morale and discipline?
The Oneidas have lived and farmed on land north of here for many hundreds of years. This place is called Valley Forge. It lies just east of where Valley Creek and the Schuylkill River join together in Pennsylvania.
Why was it so important that the morale and discipline of the Continental Army be improved?
When the Americans leave, I will begin my journey home. The Oneidas have sided with the Americans. Congress has promised to protect us. This new discipline makes an American victory likely.
A portfolio containing what looks like rather important papers.
12 men share this hut.
12 men in a space only 14 feet by 16 feet.
Would these quarters seem a little tight for you? Hello, we're James.
And Sarah. We're from the Pennsylvania Gazette.
We'd like to ask you a few questions. Have you noticed a recent change in the morale and discipline of the soldiers?
Yes. The soldiers seem like a real army now. They aren't the same discouraged lot they were when we arrived, that's for certain.
May we ask you a few questions?
Yes, but I must mend these uniforms while we talk. I sent a young boy to buy a thimble, but he has not returned.
We'll go find the boy and bring back a thimble. This is quite a find.
I must complete a report to Congress. Thank you. I'll get that paperwork finished and off to Congress right away.
Who helped improve the morale and discipline of the Continental Army?
The soldiers were discouraged because of lack of provisions, but I do not wish to throw blame upon any person. My men were nearly naked and starved. I wrote to Congress warning them that unless supplies arrived, the army would dissolve. When General Nathaniel Greene accepted the post of Quartermaster General, supplies finally began to flow regularly into camp, which helped morale.
What led to the improvements in the morale and discipline of the Continental Army?
The soldiers were starving because Congress let the Army's supply system fail. In the rest of America, people were feasting. The arrival of a Prussian officer to help with training turned this army into a unified fighting force. The arrival of the new Quartermaster General allowed supplies to flow regularly into camp. News of France forming an alliance with America further boosted morale.
When did the improvements to the morale and discipline of the Continental Army occur?
There were 3 months of hardship. Morale began to improve in February of this year when von Steuben arrived.
Where was the Continental Army when it improved in morale and discipline?
Some have questioned why I selected such a cold location for our winter encampment. The area is easy to defend, since we have a good view of all attack routes. Plus, we're close enough to Philadelphia to keep an eye on the British.
Why was it so important that the morale and discipline of the Continental Army be improved?
Many soldiers died here, but I believe this place will be remembered for what was accomplished. The Continental Army will leave this winter encampment as a well-equipped, well-trained military force. We're much better prepared to stand up to the British.
A lady sent me to buy a... Thank you. I will use this to pay for the thimble. When you go back to camp, could you take the thimble with you? The lady who wants it is mending uniforms. I set it down around here somewhere, close by.
Who helped improve the morale and discipline of the Continental Army?
I don't know his real name, but the whole camp has been jumping since he arrived. I'm hoping he'll teach me how to drill.
What led to the improvements in the morale and discipline of the Continental Army?
You know, a baking company has arrived at camp. It sure beats those fire cakes I ate the last time I visited. The new quartermaster general has really improved the food situation. And you know what they say, an army marches on its stomach. It certainly hasn't hurt that food and equipment have finally been delivered.
When did the improvements to the morale and discipline of the Continental Army occur?
I came here during the winter, and the soldiers were in need of clothes, food, just about everything. On this visit, I can sure tell things have improved. The soldiers march like a real army.
Where was the Continental Army when it improved in morale and discipline?
I'm not sure. That happened between my visits.
Why was it so important that the morale and discipline of the Continental Army be improved?
It must have something to do with the new regulations. I am off now to see if I can be part of this new army.
Anyone who sews agrees that a thimble can prevent many pricked fingers.
I must mend these uniforms. Thank you. I'll mend these uniforms as we talk.
Who helped improve the morale and discipline of the Continental Army?
A Prussian officer has brought discipline to the troops. Also, there's a new quartermaster general. He's in charge of getting supplies to the army, you know. General von Steuben should be thanked for the new discipline in the troops. General Greene should be thanked for the supplies that are finally arriving in camp. And, of course, General Washington should be thanked for his skillful and inspiring leadership.
What led to the improvements in the morale and discipline of the Continental Army?
I was so busy tending to sick and dying soldiers during the first few months that I didn't notice what led to the changes. I have noticed the changes. The soldiers seem disciplined and are taking a new pride in themselves.
When did the improvements to the morale and discipline of the Continental Army occur?
It happened after a long, cold winter of snow and rain. I remember the date General von Steuben arrived, February 23rd, 1778. It was the day before my husband's birthday. Things seemed to improve steadily once he started training the troops. Supplies arrived soon thereafter, and at the end of April, news of an alliance with France arrived.
Where was the Continental Army when it improved in morale and discipline?
I'll tell you, this place certainly has cold winters. Before we arrived here, we spent several days at a place called Gulf Mills.
Why was it so important that the morale and discipline of the Continental Army be improved?
Different states train their men using different commands, if they train them at all. The new coordinated training means that all of the soldiers now know the same commands. This should eliminate some confusion on the battlefield.
Welcome back! I'm anxious to get all the details.
I cannot believe what terrible hardships the American army had to endure at Valley Forge.
But the amazing thing is that not only did they survive, they emerged even stronger and more disciplined.
General Washington has a true army now. I'm sure he is very thankful for the excellent help he has received from men like Lafayette and von Steuben. If I'm not mistaken, The British have underestimated the Americans' skill and determination in fighting for their freedom. Let's get this story out. Head on over to the editing desk. If there is a new assignment on the bulletin board, you need to try to pick the best quotes. Feedback. Good work. This is the layout area, where you can make your newspaper front page look just the way you want before you print it out. Choose a sketch for your front page and type in a headline. Publish the paper once you are finished. The harsh winter at Valley Forge could have spelled the end of the American army, but instead, they have emerged stronger and better trained. Let's get this story published so our readers can learn of this amazing turn of events. Your story about Valley Forge was very interesting and informative. I'll hurry a copy down to the harbor. A ship is leaving for France this evening. Hopefully, Ben will get this news by next month.
After all that has happened in the last few years, I feel that things are building to a conclusion. First, the amazing transformation of the American army at Valley Forge. And now, the British decision to focus their military attention on the southern colonies. With Benedict Arnold becoming a traitor and now ravaging Virginia, not to mention Lord Cornwallis and his army heading towards Yorktown, Washington and his French allies have their hands full.
Rumors abound of the generals on each side moving their troops like pieces on a giant chessboard. And like chess, the decisive move may come at an unexpected time. I want you two packed and ready to leave at a moment's notice.
We'll be ready, Moses.
As reporters, you'll have to ask the right questions and get the facts and opinions that make the most accurate and interesting story. As a matter of fact, an exciting assignment has just come in. You'll find it over on the bulletin board. If there is a new assignment on the bulletin board, you can investigate that story. I just received word that the American and French forces have achieved an astounding victory in Virginia. The British Army may be surrendering. Some are saying that this might mean the end of the war.
Oh, I pray that they're right. America has seen enough bloodshed in its fight for liberty.
Victory! This is the story to end all stories. We need to get to Virginia and get that scoop.
We need to find out all the details. Sarah, James, it's up to you. You need to determine the who, what, when, and where behind the British surrender. And of course, as always, be sure to get at least 2 quotes about why people think it happened. And if at all possible, try to make one of them the British General Cornwallis.
General Cornwallis, a British general.
Yes, James, it's called thorough reporting.
The questions you need to ask are in your notebook. Dig hard for the best possible information. That means accurate and insightful reporting. And stay out of trouble. Good luck, and Godspeed.
Yorktown is a small town on the edge of Chesapeake Bay. The British are encamped within the town.
And it looks like the Americans and French have the place surrounded. We need to find out what is going on. The American camp. The French soldiers are camped nearby.
If what I'm hearing is true, I'm sure that all the misery of Valley Forge has been forgotten. I can't believe it.
That though George Washington is so famous, he stays in a tent like his men? He's a great man, and the greatest men are always humble.
Your Excellency, it is an honor to meet you again.
Ah, yes, Mr. Hiller and my dear Miss Phillips. I haven't seen you since Valley Forge. How is the newspaper business?
Very busy, of course, trying to keep the country up to date with the news from the war.
Well, there is much to write about here, and I would be happy to answer your questions once I locate something of importance.
Perhaps you could let us know what you need. We are fairly good at finding things.
If you would like to help, I need a map of the area including Yorktown and the York River. There is still a chance that the British fleet will try to break through, though my prayer is that they have given up and returned to New York.
We'll do our best, sir.
If you would like to help, I need a map of the area including Yorktown and the York River. There is still a chance that the British fleet will try to break through, though my prayer is that they have given up and...
That looks like an important tent. Maybe it belongs to Lafayette, or another of Washington's generals.
Well, perhaps it bears investigating then.
A journal. Many people keep journals of important events or experiences in their lives.
Looks like quite a nice place.
For a tent. A message on a scroll. Someone may be needing this.
If you would like to help, I need a map of the area including York...
I'm sure many of these soldiers are ready for a rest from fighting.
They've certainly earned it. I only hope that our country respects them for all they've done.
These are the outskirts of the American camp.
It still might be a good place to sniff out some information. Excuse me, but don't we know you?
You sure look familiar. We may have crossed paths several times during this war. I was at Lexington, Trenton, Valley Forge.
That's right. You've been very helpful. Would you mind giving us your thoughts on the British surrender at Yorktown?
Certainly. I've been keeping notes in my journal for several months now. Problem is, I seem to have misplaced it. If you can find it, it would help refresh my memory as to all the details.
We'll definitely keep our eye out for it. We found your journal!
Perfect. Now my children and grandchildren will be able to know what we went through to protect their freedom. Now, how can I help you with your story?
Who was involved at the Battle of Yorktown?
The bravest bunch of soldiers you ever saw. The Continental Army under General Washington and the French under General Rochambeau. We fought against Lord Cornwallis and his troops.
What happened during the Battle of Yorktown?
We surrounded the town. The French fleet kept the British from escaping. We attacked 2 of the British redoubts. With these taken, we could move our cannon close enough to continue heavy fire.
When did the British decide to surrender?
Not long ago. just after I got off sentry duty.
Where did the fighting take place?
Near the York River, in Virginia.
Why do you think the British decided to surrender?
We were too much for them, that's why. The British had the York River behind them, and our American and French troops completely cut them off in front. They had nowhere to retreat.
Why are we out here? All the reporting action is back at the camp.
Just a moment, dear James. One must be thorough. Henri, what are you doing out here?
Tired of the army food and looking for something else to eat?
Always you make jokes about my stomach. But you are wrong again. I am missing my drum.
That's right. Henri is now a drummer in the French army. Can you give us any details about the rumored British surrender?
Not right now. I need to find my missing drum. All I have found so far is a white flag. The British have more need of it than I do.
All right. We'll keep our eyes open for your instrument. Though I'm sure there's more peace and quiet around here with it missing. Let's not forget.
What a pity that this war has caused so much destruction.
I guess that's what happens after you fire cannonballs back and forth for days on end. This is the edge of the British fortifications.
I hope they understand that we're just reporters.
It doesn't look like that British sentry will let us pass.
Hey, you two. Don't I know you? You're reporters, aren't you? Sarah and what's your name?
James Hiller, famous reporter.
I guess not that famous yet, James.
Soon to be famous, after publishing this story on what could prove to be a disastrous defeat for the British.
Too true, mate, too true. In fact, I've been looking around for a white flag.
A white flag?
A white flag shows I'm done fighting and want to surrender. Bring me one, and I'll let you into the British camp for some interviews.
It's a deal. This is called a redoubt.
I know what a redoubt is. A protected fortification outside the main camp. It appears that the Americans overran this one.
Excuse me, sir. We're reporters from the Pennsylvania Gazette. Would you mind answering a few questions about the British surrender?
I suppose. I fought alongside the British, but I didn't volunteer to come here.
That's why we'd like to hear your point of view. You're from an area of Germany known as Hesse-Kassel, right?
Yes, they call us Hessians. My services were sold to King George by the Prince of Hesse-Kassel, but I received no pay at all.
Could you tell us a bit about the British surrender?
I could, but what I really need is money. I'll need it to start a new life once this war is over. What few coins I had saved were stolen. Could you help me?
We'd be happy to. And then maybe you could help us out by answering a few questions.
It's amazing that the soldiers could make it through these defenses.
They were inspired to give their all, so that all of us could be free. Regiments of soldiers respond to different signals beaten on a drum like this one.
I am not in the mood for Merci. Thank you. And don't forget to take the white flag I found. I have no use for it. Okay, I'm ready. What questions do you want to ask me?
Who was involved at the Battle of Yorktown?
The French was there. I know Generals Washington and Rochambeau were involved, but I'm not sure who was leading the British.
What happened during the Battle of Yorktown?
The British took quite a pounding. The French and the Americans surrounded and outnumbered the British.
When did the British decide to surrender?
I think it was right after lunch. Maybe?
Where did the fighting take place?
Most of the fighting involved cannons firing at both sides. I guess you would say that most of the fighting was right over my head.
Why do you think the British decided to surrender?
It was my skills as a drummer. I struck terror into their hearts. I'm sure all the heavy cannon fire took its toll on the British troops. They couldn't retreat. Being surrounded, they had no place to go. The British Navy failed to help Cornwallis's troops because they were turned back by the French Navy.
A white flag shows I'm done.
If we need some help, we can always...
Waving a white flag is a signal you want to surrender.
A white flag shows. Thanks much. You're free to go into the camp. First, I suppose you'll be wanting to chat with me a bit, right?
Who was involved at the Battle of Yorktown?
I'll tell you if I can think straight. I ain't had a square meal in days. Those rebels and our old enemies, the French, against His Majesty's regulars.
What happened during the Battle of Yorktown?
We traded cannon fire back and forth for days. Our ammunition ran low and casualties mounted. The French Navy blockaded the bay.
When did the British decide to surrender?
When Lord Cornwallis had given up hope. Middle of October. Oh, what an awful day.
Where did the fighting take place?
Far from me home and family, that's for certain. I miss 'em terribly. Between the town of Yorktown and the American and French lines.
Why do you think the British decided to surrender?
Oh, I know all about that. It was because our Navy let us down. We're much better soldiers than those rebels. If we could have gotten some reinforcements and more munitions, we could have driven them out of Virginia.
That's the Nelson House. I was told that Lord Cornwallis made it his headquarters.
Looks like it took a beating. The British fortified the whole edge of Yorktown, but it couldn't keep out the American cannon fire. Well, it looks like the inside of this place didn't take too much of a beating.
No, but I'm sure it was rather shaken up.
A map of Yorktown and the surrounding area. Somebody's going to find this very useful. This place is called the bunker, a protected place underneath the house.
It certainly seems that it would be much safer down here.
Excuse me, sir, but are you Lord Cornwallis?
Of course I am. Who did you think I was? Benedict Arnold?
No, sir. My friend was just trying to be polite. It's not something he's had much practice at.
Hey!
We are reporters from the Pennsylvania Gazette. We wanted to get your perspective on the recent events.
Really? Well, I cannot be bothered about that until I take some tea. That dratted cannon fire broke the teapot my servant Armistead had been using. He's off looking for another one.
Maybe we can find one.
If you bring me some tea, I'll consent to tell you what led to this sorry state of affairs.
This old barn looks like a good place to find something interesting. This is quite a find. This looks like the barracks. You know, where the soldiers sleep.
I believe you are correct, but it looks rather like there hasn't been much sleeping going on.
If you would like to help, Thank you. This will be very useful. Now, how can I help you?
Who was involved at the Battle of Yorktown?
A combined force of American and French soldiers fought against British and Hessian forces. General Rochambeau commanded the French forces on land. I led our Patriot forces with the aid of several experienced lieutenants. General Cornwallis led the British.
What happened during the Battle of Yorktown?
With thanks to the French for their aid, we finally handed the British the defeat I'd been hoping for. We surrounded the British and closed in on them. Under cover of darkness, we dug trenches to protect our troops and mount the guns. From there, we fired directly into the town at the British troops.
When did the British decide to surrender?
I will never forget that glorious day. It was the morning of October 17th, the morning after the providential storm that wrecked Cornwallis's plan to cross the York River to Gloucester, where there were fewer French troops.
Where did the fighting take place?
On the south bank of the York River, around the town of Yorktown, Virginia.
Why do you think the British decided to surrender?
A great many factors led to the surrender. Henry Clinton did not send reinforcements to Cornwallis in time. The British fleet was led by an inept admiral. Several timely storms wrecked the British plans. We had them surrounded, and they were out of munitions.
You're back!
What I really need is money.
We found some coins!
My missing savings! I am truly in debt to you. Now, how can I help you with your story?
Who was involved at the Battle of Yorktown?
I never saw who we were fighting against, but I know who was on our side. I and many other Hessians fought alongside the British.
What happened during the Battle of Yorktown?
It was terrible. Terrible! We were running low on food and cannonballs. The promised help didn't arrive, and the enemy fire was too heavy. They were getting very close to us.
When did the British decide to surrender?
It wasn't soon enough. We were completely surrounded and had no chance of escape.
Where did the fighting take place?
Ah, the fighting? More shooting cannons than actual fighting, if you know what I mean. Apart from the cannon fire, most of the hand-to-hand fighting took place when the rebels captured 2 British redoubts, or fortifications, in Yorktown, Virginia.
Why do you think the British decided to surrender?
I'm not sure of our general's reasons. My comrades and I were tired of fighting.
Not very comfortable, if you ask me.
They're soldiers. They're used to being uncomfortable.
The basement. Looks like a lot of troops were stationed here. I wonder where they all went.
They probably got out while they could and moved on.
Sir, we're journalists from the Pennsylvania Gazette. Would you mind giving us your name?
Certainly. My name is James. My master's name is Armistead, so that's the name I go by. I have special permission by my master to help the American cause however I can.
Armistead? Weren't you a spy for Lord Cornwallis?
Perhaps you could say that I was. At least, he thought so.
What do you mean?
I was actually working for General Washington as a spy for him.
A double agent! Fantastic!
I remember hearing about you, Mr. Armistead. You played a part in Cornwallis's decision to remain here in Yorktown, where he would eventually be trapped. Would you mind if we ask you a few questions?
First, I need a secret message I'm expecting from General Washington. I was supposed to pick it up in the American camp, and then I need to...
We found the message.
Thank you. It's some more false information I'm to give to Cornwallis. I put the teapot over there. You can take it to him when you're ready. What questions do you want to ask me?
Who was involved at the Battle of Yorktown?
Being a so-called double agent, I was free to meet those involved on both sides. His Excellency General Washington led the Americans. General Rochambeau led the French, and General Lord Cornwallis the British.
What happened during the Battle of Yorktown?
I didn't see everything, but I know that the Americans were able to dig trenches very close to the British and bring their cannons along.
When did the British decide to surrender?
It was a few days ago, if I remember correctly. Mid-October, I believe.
Where did the fighting take place?
On the coast of Virginia, near the mouth of the Chesapeake Bay.
Why do you think the British decided to surrender?
Well, I don't know exactly what happened at the end. Cornwallis believed he would receive reinforcements and munitions from New York, but they never arrived.
A teapot? The cellar? I think this is where they kept their food supplies.
Looks like they were running a little low. Maybe that's why they weren't fighting so well.
This looks like a medical kit for giving someone a smallpox inoculation.
You're right. Smallpox is a deadly disease, and people are just beginning to understand that they can be inoculated against it.
If you bring me some tea...
We found James Armistead. He made you this tea.
Oh, well done. That Armistead is really a very good servant. I'll miss having him around. And now for your questions. If you will print the truth, I will tell you my opinion of this tragedy.
Who was involved at the Battle of Yorktown?
It seemed like everyone was involved. I led the British Army against combined French and American forces headed by Rochambeau and Washington. The French Navy was also here.
What happened during the Battle of Yorktown?
It was disastrous. Absolutely disastrous. The noise was terrible. I couldn't even drink a cup of tea in peace. The Americans obtained siege guns that bombarded our encampment. They dug trenches to get closer to us much faster than we expected. Our retreat was cut off by the French fleet, so we had no choice left but to surrender.
When did the British decide to surrender?
That fateful day will be forever etched in my mind. The morning of October 17th, 1781, right after my artillery commander informed me that we were almost out of ammunition.
Where did the fighting take place?
We could not seem to mount an attack at all. The fighting took place in Yorktown, Virginia.
Why do you think the British decided to surrender?
Among other things, the heaviness of the American bombardment surprised us. I knew that our defenses would soon fall. I was forced to surrender because the British Navy did not rescue us. We were trapped, we were out of ammunition, and the enemy was about to break through our fortifications.
Welcome back. I'm anxious to get all the details.
We did it, Moses! The whole of Cornwallis's army surrendered at Yorktown.
And I have to admit, I'm convinced that this fight for liberty was worth the sacrifices.
With Cornwallis's surrender, I'm sure that the British are losing the stomach to fight. I'm sure that a serious move will be made to sign a peace treaty.
And the United States of America will be free and independent.
We owe it to our readers to get this news printed as soon as possible. Let's get to work over at the editing desk. Try to pick the best quotes from your notebook pages. Select a part of your story and then choose a quote to go there. Remember, you can get feedback about the quotes you choose before you print your article. Don't forget, you need quotes that answer who, what, when, and where, and 2 quotes that answer why the event is worth repeating. Feedback appears below each of your quotes. Good work! If you think you have finished editing your story, go to the layout area in front of the printing press to design the front page of your newspaper. This is the layout area, where you can make your newspaper front page look just the way you want before you print it out. Choose a sketch for your front page and type in a headline. Publish the paper once you are finished. Congratulations, James and Sarah, an excellent story. And I have a surprise for you. Guess who has returned from Europe to celebrate the official end of the Revolutionary War with us, now that he's finished helping to get the peace treaty signed with Great Britain?
Ben! Ben Franklin! I can't believe it!
What a wonderful surprise! We've missed you terribly.
I have been away far too long. But reading your excellent accounts has hastened the passage of time.
It has been an honor for us to be apprentice reporters here, Ben. Moses has passed on all your wisdom.
Apprentice reporters? Moses, haven't you told them the news?
I wanted you to tell them.
Tell us what, Ben?
For your great service in keeping the flame of the revolution burning brightly over these many years, Congress has agreed with me that you deserve a very special recognition of your endeavors.
Not only are you now full-fledged reporters,
but based on the number of papers your stories have sold, you are to receive a special award for excellence in journalism.
I don't know what to say.
I do. Yahoo!
This award represents our young nation's gratitude for your hard work in maintaining the spirit of freedom through your stories. A spirit that I am convinced will live on as the United States of America shines forth the light of liberty.
Congratulations! You've done a great job covering important events of the American Revolution. You may print out any of your newspapers by selecting them. Select Start Over if you want to play again. You'll need to pay close attention, though, because things may be a little different the next time around.
Well, guys, we witnessed a lot of historical events. Boston Tea Party, Lexington and Concord, the Declaration of Independence, crossing the Delaware, Saratoga, Valley Forge, and Battle of Yorktown. I hope you enjoyed my gameplay and my very creative newspaper headlines. Give the video a thumbs up if you did, comment down below sharing your thoughts, and subscribe for more nostalgic gaming. Remember, you are special and loved, you are never alone, and you're always welcome to come back and hang out anytime. Until the next video, God bless, I will see you all later. Bye-bye, my friends.